Hello, live stream. Setting up for Linux Unplugged. Episode, what is this, Wes? 247 if our math is right?
247.
We got special guest Brent over here in the studio.
Rocking it.
Hanging out, part of our Linux Fest Northwest Hangover.
I like that. That's perfect.
It is, isn't it?
Ooh, look, he's getting casual over there.
Yeah,
too.
are you so that way you can see me?
Well, I couldn't see it.
That's
it was
funny.
strange talking to it, just like disembodied.
It is weird, right?
Your
Yeah.
butt's going to hurt after a while. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to be...
It's worth it.
I thought now your chair is now as comfortable as our chairs. You went from the most comfortable chair to about the same
the same level.
Yeah, these are horrible chairs.
That's to make sure we don't go on the air too long and ramble. We want to get the hell out of here.
Keeps us on our toes. All right. Oh, we got some folks in the mumble. Hello, Mini Mac. Hello, Dan. Good to see you guys. How's it going in there? Oh, I don't hear yous. Oh.
Hello.
Hello, Mini Mac. How are you?
It's going good. I'm your gatekeeper.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Good, Dan. How are you? Oh,
I'm going to take that as splendid.
I'm going to take that silence as everything's good and I have nothing bad going on at all.
Unless something bad just happened.
Yeah, that or...
Say it ain't so.
Yeah. I would probably... I mean, if it was just me, I would assume the worst, like an EMP just went off over California.
Oh, God.
Gosh, that's horrible, huh?
Not again.
What is he going to do, dude? Maybe he's running a beta build of Juno and it just crashed on him.
Don't say such things. That's just mean.
I know. I shouldn't say that. Why
Maybe
don't
he was
we
running plasma and it just didn't work out.
Why don't we talk a little Juno today? Kind of feel like talking a little.
Ooh.
Some patches went upstream to Electron and Firefox and libnotify. Maybe Dan can tell us about that if his audio gets working again. And yeah. I think that should be good. If you're watching live and want to join us in the chat room, it's irc.geekshed.net, # Jupiter Broadcasting. We are not monitoring the YouTube chat, although it's been pretty active these days, I've noticed. So you guys might be making me have to do that eventually. But in the meantime, the real chat action's happening on irc.geekshed.net. Oh, really, Minimac? You got no audio? So how are you hearing me? Playback on the live stream? Boo-boo. Brr. Let's see.
No, I have simultaneously. I have just the stream on.
Ah.
We heard you.
Yes. Wonder what
this
that
is.
is.
The first go round, right? Of
I'm not actually.
Mumble in this config.
No. Well, I did LAN over Mumble.
Oh, okay. Huh.
What about now? Can you hear me now? Well, it all looks good. I'm not sure what that's about. Yes. And we're sending to 3. How's it sound now? Yeah. Okay. That's all up. Maybe it's something wrong with the audio config in that they're...
They're mumblers.
Yeah.
Mumblers.
Maybe that's what's going on. Let's see.
Why can't you get your S together, Mumble?
Yeah, really. So
Trying to do a Linux Unplugged.
It's so embarrassing, dude. It's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Check. Yeah,
It's
look.
like drunk on the street.
It's totes dead. It is totes dead. It sees no line level from us at all. At all.
Oh.
It's like something changed. Like it changed the freaking default. All right, how's that? Can you hear us now?
Hey yo, there you are.
Hey, hi,
Yes.
Yeah,
We got you.
I don't know. I don't know if my default audio interface changed or what. But I'm sorry about that. It's all betters now. I thought for a hot second it might have been a mixer config issue, but it turns out something just took a poo.
That'll happen around here.
Something
sometimes.
took a poo. So what do you think, Dan? You want to talk a little Juno today?
Sure, that'd be swell.
A little Juno, perhaps, eh? They all say. Boop, 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 boop. All right. Ba-doo. Scanning. I like these. So talk maybe about some patches that got sent upstream to Electron and Firefox and libnotify. That could be good.
Yeah.
Some interesting. Let's see. I haven't read this yet. So, Oh, really? Oh. Stability and cleaner code base for files. Talk about that a
Nice.
little bit. Yes.
Probably the biggest deal is the notification stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Let me scanning, skimming. Hello, code. Code's getting lots of mentions, lots of code hype. Lots of code hype. All right. As part of our effort to make users have full control over the apps they send notifications. Oh, man. Amen to that, brother. No doubt.
Preach it.
We've removed theirs. It tries to get switched out. So, what is this now? Right now, developers can identify their apps as notifications using glib notification. However, we previously had a heuristic that tried to guess the correct app for notification that didn't include an ID. Oh, interesting. I see. Included notifications being grouped incorrectly. Electron apps ones. Okay, that makes sense. Interesting. You guys have put some thought into notifications in a way that I feel like other people have not.
We're trying to.
It's nice.
Trying to get it all nice and pretty and neat for everybody.
Yeah, because otherwise, right now what ends up happening is I just D&D so often, and then it's like a
Right.
nothing breaks through. That's just not.
You're invincible.
Yeah, in a way. I'm also unreachable.
Yeah.
It's not awesome. Well, if anybody listening wants to join us in the Mum Room, you are welcome to do so. It'll be open to you. And special guest Richard Stallman is in there right now. So,
Ooh.
It's wrong.
oh, he says don't go in the Mum Room. Actually, I guess I'm not sure. Maybe it's a complicated thing.
It's a complicated relationship.
Sure is.
I see. But Richard, what about the show? What about the show not being very good if people don't show up in the Mumble Room?
What happens to you is not sufficiently important to justify the wrong you're doing.
But it's not proprietary software.
Proprietary software is not ethical.
No, I said it's not proprietary.
That program, although it may be attractive, is really a trap.
Oh, that is true. He's got us there.
How can you argue with that?
Yeah, I'm glad he stopped by the Mumble Room, though. That was good.
He's such a gentleman.
Could be a new segment. RMS stops by the Mumble
Do
Room.
you think he gets bored saying the same thing over and over again?
I don't.
All signs point to absolutely not.
Actually, maybe. He does. I have noticed in recent interviews, he seemed like a little more like, I'm always saying this and nobody listens. But I don't think he does. I think he thrives on it.
Well, because the sounds get captured in the beard and then they just get released over time automatically.
Have you seen that he was recently interviewed by
Swap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see those interviews?
I didn't see all of the RMS interviews, but I did see the.
You saw the teaser and the other short one that he had up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw that, yeah.
I couldn't concentrate on what he was saying because I just wanted to. I was just thinking, could you have just trimmed your moustache and not had all your whiskers going up your nose?
Yeah,
A tiny amount of grooming goes a long way in this
It was
world.
a bit distracting, but that is not new to RMS. I've almost normalized it, I think I've been around enough geeks now where I just seen so much. I don't know. You must see it when you go out to these events. You just got back from traveling, Wimpy. You must see it from time to time in person. You mean you're not used to it yet?
No. All of the Linux geeks that I see at events are extremely well turned out, and some of them could be described as fashionistas.
That is true. I have seen a few of those. Especially some of those Canonical employees down there in the London offices. They are really well dressed. But I am underdressed right now because Brent's here in studio and Wes is in studio. Both those guys are good dressers. And I'm just sitting here.
I'm just wearing my socks.
Yeah. Whoa, you got more on than I do.
A little
but-
extra.
Today I almost bought a tie with a bunch of little bunnies on it.
Oh,
You should have.
I loved it, but I didn't love it for $40.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's spendy.
Yeah, you got to find a cheaper version on Amazon. They love it when
Yeah.
you do that. They love that.
Yeah, you try it on in store and then buy it elsewhere. Yeah, it's
Right?
super ethical.
All right, so we're gonna take a moment here. I'll BRB. See, I'm gonna close that. I'm gonna open this. Yep, on yop. All right, gentlemen, breathe in. Moment of silence. How long can you hold it for? And out. See, I had to mute Wimpy
So-
there. Otherwise, I think I
Well-
would have weaponized Joe.
Well,
That'd be worth it.
I got a very sternly
Oh,
worded
did you?
telegram message last week.
That makes me so happy.
I love Joe.
Yeah.
I love it. You can always count on Joe to make sure the production quality is at the highest standard, even if that means yelling at Wimpy. Yeah. It's you know what though, it was still a pretty good troll. I mean, don't tell Joe, but it was still a
Yeah.
pretty good troll.
occasionally it's just worth doing, but it wasn't worth repeating 2 weeks on the bounce.
Yeah, yeah, because he could probably come find you and then yell at you in person, and that would be awkward. You don't want that.
Very awkward.
How was your trip, though? I mean, save some up for the show, but are you feeling good? Are you all right?
Yeah, I got back about this time last night, so I'm a little bit, post-conference exhausted, but
Yes.
it was ace, yes.
Yes, I very much know how you feel. Feeling that myself right now, but we're still I think we're still in the hangover phase. Actually,
Definitely.
I don't think I'm going to be through it until tomorrow. But it was a
Probably
good
Thursday,
nice fest.
right?
We partied a lot,
Woo!
which was nice, but also
Can't stop, won't stop.
yeah,
Many barbecues and many sleeping on couches.
yes, yeah, it was good though. We just did another barbecue. I don't really like that crop on that. I can't help myself, but I think it's okay.
It does feel a little,
Close?
Yeah, it's a little tight on the side.
but you do what you have to do.
I know, right? That's what I'll do. Now, you had something for the pre-show. You submitted it last night, and I forgot what it was. I'm sorry. I'm a bad person. I'm sorry, Wes.
Let's look. Take an old peek skis.
Take a little look, skis. Pop, 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 pop.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Popey. Good to see you. How are you?
Super. How are you?
Pretty well. Well fed, if nothing else. Very well fed.
Hey, Dan.
Hey.
So I saw your Google Plus message a couple of days ago where you said there's less than 10 issues to resolve for beta.
There
How many are
is.
you down to now?
There are currently 7.
Ooh.
Linter for
Close.
a purpose.
It's coming.
Have we seen this before? I feel like we've seen this before. Linter
What's that?
with a purpose. A delinting tool. I feel like I've seen this before. $7.
Is that the kind of thing to get stuff out of your belly button or some other delinting tool?
Is it like the Remington Fuzz Away?
I can't. I don't think so. I don't think it's that useful, actually.
There were these two old women. Do you ever watch Gogglebox, Martin? You don't. I know you don't.
No, I don't.
Have you ever heard of Gogglebox, Chris?
No.
So there's this TV program called Gogglebox, and it's basically cameras pointing at people in the lounge watching the TV. So you watch people watching TV. It's quite entertaining, mindless bullshit TV, but it's the characters. It's like people sat around in their lounge watching some TV program, and the way they react to it. It's crap, but I love it.
People. Wait a minute. You're watching people watching TV?
Yeah, they know they're being watched. They're
Are they at home? Are they? And they have like webcams?
Yeah, they're in their homes.
Wow.
No, it's proper cameras.
Where do I see this?
You could probably find it on the YouTube.
Tell me what it's called. Tell me what it's called again.
Gogglebox.
There's this thing called the internet, Chris. Everything's on the internet.
But
Oh
how
my
do you
god,
find
it's not that good. You don't need to go and find it. It's on Channel 4 in the UK.
I feel like I need
but
to
it's
find
called
it.
Gogglebox. Yeah. So anyway,
Oh my gosh!
you've just reminded me that these two old ladies were sat there and they were using a Remington Fuzzaway just last week to get rid of
Wow.
all the bubbles on a jumper. Thanks, Martin.
Was the innovation, technological innovation of 1986 that thing?
It was.
So-
And then one of them was going, "Oh, I'm getting all the bubbles off," and the other one was like, "Oh, isn't that marvelous?"
Series 11, Episode 9 is literally a couple of old ladies sitting around watching Britain's Got Talent, Antique Roadshow, The Queen's Green Planet, Buy It Now, and Yorkshire Vet. And so you're watching these old ladies watch those shows. It's two old ladies
It's not just those two ladies.
Yeah,
it cuts between lots of different families. There's like big families. There's an Asian family. There's a group who live up north, and so there's all different accents in there and different like characters.
Okay.
And there's a woman and her best mate who live in a caravan, like a mobile home, somewhere, and those two sitting next to each other are it's just quite entertaining.
Boy, if anybody ever
characters.
wondered if there was a market for people watching people play video games, this shows you there.
Totally.
If there's people, so
Yeah.
can you hear the TV show? Can you hear what they're watching, or do you just?
Well, they cut to it, so you know what they're watching. They get clips of whatever it is they're
nice.
watching,
Yeah,
and then
okay.
it cuts to them, and
Okay.
as if you're cutting to the audience of a TV
So
show.
you're watching their reaction. I see.
I can't believe I've outed myself as watching this program because
You'll never live it down. Not for a day.
it's fucking brilliant. I love it. It's my guilty pleasure.
Yeah, good. Oh, wow.
I can hear the guilt just peeling off you.
Gogglebox. Well, guess what I'm adding to Usenet? I gotta see it. I just gotta see it.
And it's actually current because they record them like that weekend, and so it's about the programs that you will have watched the previous week.
Oh, that is handy.
So, yeah.
Oh God, did you guys see this? Facebook dating was announced just
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
Oh my
Just
god.
you, Dan.
Yeah.
For you, isn't it?
No, I'm off Facebook these days.
Oh,
I've been thinking about it a lot.
Yeah. I saw that and I nearly included it as a news item for the Ubuntu podcast.
smooth.
I've been thinking about doing the Facebook account delete thing. I'm not sure. It's just a few family members that I would lose touch with.
No, I just unfriended all of the randos that I'd collected. OCD shone through, and it was like where all of the people I knew when I was at primary school,
Yeah.
and connected with people that I haven't seen since I was 10. And then some years later, I realised I'd got hundreds of friends that I didn't really know, and I just unfriended all the randoms and just
Are you not?
coalesced around the people that I actually know. So Facebook's
just
people
me now,
that I
isn't it?
actually know. It's basically you and my wife, Popey. Yeah.
Are you not worried about the data tracking aspects of it? The them monitoring you on other sites via the Facebook like buttons and whatnot?
I am, but if I am not on Facebook and like everything my wife posts within a maximum of a 37-minute time frame,
Then she thinks you're mad at her or something.
yeah,
okay.
exactly. So I have
didn't
to
you
be on
like that?
Facebook to sort of, have a harmonious, marriage.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm on Facebook.
Yeah, I do it for family.
I need to create a bot that every time Louise posts something, it likes what she's posted within 37 minutes. And if I could do that, then I wouldn't have
You'd
to
be
interact
safe.
with
Yeah,
it.
that's worth
yeah.
every cost.
Do you have a Facebook, Brent? Do you have a Facebook
I
account?
do, and I've been having this exact conversation. It's like you're repeating what has been happening in
Yeah,
my mind.
you're wondering
for
if
the
it's
last-
time.
Well, yeah, and I've maybe one of the solutions to some of these problems is that new Firefox plugin that came out to isolate
container.
things, right?
Yeah.
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 Oh, here we go. I can W up on this. So I'm using the Facebook. Well, I'm using Firefox containers generally, but I use the Facebook one. Now on my phone, I've removed all of the actual Facebook apps. So I've removed Facebook Messenger and Facebook itself,
Yes.
and the Pages administrator, or whatever it's called. And I have installed. There's an application called I forget the exact name. I think it's just called Notifications or Notifications FB or something, but it's called Notifications. I'll find the exact name in a moment. I have that installed, which polls the web service to see if you've been sent a message or if somebody's liked something or whatever.
Ah.
And then I have another app installed called Slim Social, which is a web wrapper around the Facebook website. And the notifications thingy integrates with the Slim Social. So now everything on my phone to do with Facebook is constrained to this web app that is in its own little sandbox.
That is.
So I still get the notifications, so I can still like everything Louise posts within 37 minutes, but I don't get all of that invasive shit that the Facebook applications have hooked up to the rest of your system.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
I'm going to totally look into that. That
Yeah.
is so neat.
I just
Yeah,
installed.
I'll get the.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I'll get the actual names of those apps. They're available in F-Droid and they're also available in the Android App Store.
Neat. What were you going to say, Brent?
I was just gonna give a thumbs up there. I just installed Slim Social for Linux Fest Northwest to get my Twitter up and going, but I'm kind of trying to be anti Google Store. So yeah, F-Droid, it's in there and it actually works really well. Super
Oh, great.
responsive.
Double plug.
Okay. Is this pre-show?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to check to make sure.
Yeah, so the notifications app is called Notifications for Facebook, and it's a blue square cut up into quadrants. 3 of the squares are blue and 1 of the squares is red. So you use that and then that'll integrate with Slim Social, and that's how I'm doing Facebook these days. And the notifications are actually more useful through this notifications app than Facebook's own one.
I am really pleased to hear those solutions exist. I didn't realize that, and I think that is freaking great. I assumed I was SOL on that stuff, so that is wonderful.
As a
It
counterpoint, Martin told me about this a few weeks ago, and I installed it on my phone. then found it incredibly frustrating to use.
Oh,
so
really?
nuked it all and went back to using the Facebook app. Yeah.
What was it that made it frustrating?
The UI is it's like using a web app. It's not the same as using a native app.
Yeah. My use case may be quite niche in that I don't actually do anything on Facebook other than like what Louise writes and check what the what's on the Ubuntu Mate Facebook page.
Yeah.
Once a day. So I don't need anything very sophisticated. But it does work with Facebook messages as well. It wraps the web messenger thing, so you get notifications of messages you've been sent, and you can access those through the web wrapper.
We're talking about Facebook and trying to make it less evil than it should be.
Or at least contain it a bit, I suppose. We don't really have any control over their evilness, but
yeah,
isolating it in your life a little bit. So
I'm sort of mixed on this because I'm one of the guys that has separate email accounts for separate designations. So I have like an old email account that I've had ever since I was a kid. That's for all my fun stuff. Then I have like a quote unquote business email for for my LinkedIn and other stuff. And then I have a separate email for all my coupons and other offers from stores. That's separate from Google. That's a different URL. So, and I try to separate out my life into different segments. So my Twitter is more or less my somewhat political, somewhat maybe middle of the road thing. Facebook is all family. And being that I am of Indian descent, it's imperative that I have WhatsApp, and it's like a big thing among my friends, my fellow friends and family. That WhatsApp is a big app among our demographic.
And the value of this is negative.
And I also use Facebook Messenger as well, but I use the Messenger client, but I don't have the Facebook app on my phone. I use a different wrapper app than what Wimpy just suggested.
Yeah, if I ever need it on the phone, I've just used the web app, but I use Facebook so infrequently that I mostly just contain all of my usage to Firefox on my desktop. So that's why the container works so well for me.
Right.
Yeah, Facebook for me, I barely use it. Like the last stuff that I put on there was like ever since my high school graduation, and after that I didn't really post much.
Yeah.
My sister posts a lot of photos of me, and I do approve of my face on those because she's my family. But other than that, I don't really post much to Facebook. Most of my posting goes to Twitter.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I think that's kind of how our group rolls for the most part. Well, right on. We should probably get started, but yeah, go ahead.
And then there's Discord, which is like a whole other wormhole entirely.
Oh yeah. Discord is still like I don't know what to do because we started going into Discord, and so now I've got an account and I've got all that stuff in there, and I'm just not sure what to do.
Well, I'm actually a mod of a Discord server that is about a certain wing of politics in the U.S. and it's a very niche. It can be very niche to what you want, depending. A lot of subreddits use it for their communications with their Redditors.
Yeah, it does seem like that pattern has kind of exploded. There's a Discord, if there's a subreddit for like almost anything now.
And there's a directory.
And Discord. Yeah, there's just proprietary things that have wormed their way into so many aspects of life. I'm on too many Slack networks. I will probably have that client around all the darn time, and, for the moment, I guess that's okay.
Slack term for the win.
Oh, yeah, Slack term. Nice. Yeah, I do like that.
Oh, yeah. Gentlemen, are we all ready to start? Anybody need anything before we go?
I think we're good.
All right.
Do we have a headline?
I'm good.
We are. Yes, I think we're good. All right. Stand by, Mumble Room. We'll be back momentarily. We got a great crew in there today. Holy crap.
We sure do.
Look at that. That's wonderful. Okay, so yeah, I'll bring you in just a little bit, Brent. So don't worry, you'll know when it's your turn. And yeah, people are liking it when we do the longer intro.
That's funny.
Yeah,
but the people have spoken.
We did a little test and they spoke, so we'll stick with it. That's how it is. All right, and we begin in 3. In a turn. Which actually, I'll just get rid. We're officially getting rid of the short version, and I'm replacing the short version with the original long version. Okay, now we start. This is Linux Unplugged, episode 200 and... Got some lip slap in there. Hold on. This is Linux Unplugged, episode 247 for May 1st, 2018. Ooh, welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that's still smack dab in the middle of the Linux Fest hangover. My name is Chris.
My name is Wes.
Hello, Mr. Payne.
Hello there.
Are you well fed, sir?
Oh, I am stuffed.
Yeah, I supplied the burgers and Wes supplied the caffeine, so this should be a good show. Coming up on this week's episode, not one, but two major distribution releases. Fedora 28 is out today. Ubuntu 18.04 came out just the other day, and we're going to give you our initial impressions on both of them, loaded them up, kicked the tires, and man, is there some cool stuff in both of them. I cannot wait to tell you about that. So it's a packed distro episode. Plus, Mr. Daniel Foray is here from Elementary OS to give us a little taste of what's just around the corner in Juno, and some of those features speak deep to my soul. You guys will totally understand once we get there. And then later on, did you hear that Google just forked a popular GTK theme?
What?
And you know how NFS tables is the new hotness to replace IP tables? Yep, that's out. Something new's coming in. And the one, the only Mr. Alan Jude will stop by the show live from Linux Fest Northwest and tell us all about BPF. Plus, a new release of Darktable is out, and listener Brent stopping by the show to give us a walkthrough of that. And then we will do our Ubuntu 18.04 roundup with a look at the flavors, the new features in Ubuntu itself, our thoughts on some of the server stuff they're introducing, and much, much more. But before I go any further, before I even get to the virtual lug, a special in-studio lug member, Mr. Brent, the very, we're going to call him Darktable expert now for the show, is actually joining us right now. Hello, Brent.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's going good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. That barbecue was good.
Couple of nights on the couch. Good here at the studio. Brent stopped by for Linux Fest Northwest, took some great pictures. He's been talking to me about Darktable. We've got a new release of Darktable 2 to sort of button it all up, so we'll be getting to that a little bit in the show, so stay tuned for that. And now, without any further ado, we got to bring in that virtual lug. Time appropriate greetings, Mumble Room.
Hello.
What's up?
Hey. I heard that, random Ubicon. I heard that. Yeah, actually, that looked like an amazing venue, Wimpy. I saw your Mate roundup of the new features, and it looked like you were in a church of Ubuntu. It was impressive.
We were in an historic building, and it was rather wonderful. Yeah.
Well, I would love to chat about that in a moment, so let's get there too. But why don't we start out with the huge news of the day, just to get things rolling here on the old podcast, and that is the release of Fedora 28. Fedora 28 landed today as we record, and it's available as an Atomic workstation image too.
Yes, it is.
Which is the first time that's officially happening. It's not all out. They haven't really talked about it a lot yet, but if you go on the Atomic development list, which I troll all the time.
Every damn day.
And you'll see that they have a release announcement over there, which is a pretty freaking big deal. But let's talk about the workstation version. I can't believe I'm about to tell you this. Let me double check. Is this actually Fedora?
It's real.
You sure?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Sure. Okay.
Verified.
Well, a new feature, apparently, I don't believe it, of Fedora 28 is the inclusion of popular third-party software repositories that you can just turn on in GNOME 328. They include applications, NVIDIA proprietary graphics driver,
What?
Google Chrome, the Steam client, yes, and more, like PyCharm, are now all available with just a few clicks in GNOME software under Fedora 28. That's
what I did not think I would see this day, but hey.
This isn't anything. I can't even right now. I'm still processing this, and I think what it's got to be is Fedora trying to appeal to developers who use these tools. That's got to be what it is. I don't know. Anybody in the Mumble Room before we move on to the other features, want to just take a moment and reflect on the fact that Fedora's making it a couple clicks now to install Google Chrome or the NVIDIA driver? Anybody think that's remarkable besides me?
I mean, I think it's definitely a change from, the behavior we've seen in the past, but it's probably
I can't be
time.
the only one. Somebody in that Mumble Room's got to think that's remarkable. Somebody does. They just don't want to say. I understand.
It's remarkable.
There you go.
Point proven.
But isn't this something that Wimpy has been doing in Ubuntu Mate for a while?
Okay, go ahead, Eric. Say it again.
Isn't this something that Ubuntu Mate has done for a while?
Oh, sure. They're definitely by no means the first. Absolutely.
they're doing.
I thought they would be the very, very last. Minimec, did you want to throw something in there?
Yeah, I tried to install Chromium, the Chromium browser last time, and it told me that it needed 600 megabytes to install all the packages. I was pretty much surprised. So I'm going to test how much the normal Google Chrome uses.
This is going to be something I'll be testing too. I'll be testing all of this a lot more soon. But I want to take, spoiler alert, I'm going to round up some of the new features, the new things people are talking about, what initially seems really great to me. I'm not giving you my review for either Ubuntu 18.04 or Fedora 28 yet. I've got initial impressions. I'm going to share those with you, but I want to run both of these for a while because I have been living in Kubuntu so deeply that I just need to take time to give them a proper quote-unquote review. But I'll give you something else in Fedora 28 that seems initially pretty appealing to me. They've really sort of tuned down some of the things that suck battery life with various different hardware power-saving features that they're turning on by default now. These are all things that scripts will turn on or some people, other distributions turn on automatically, but I think in totality, this is actually pretty impressive. So we now have a new default saddling power management policy on all the Intel mobile chipsets that is way more disk-friendly, low power. So like when it's idle, it'll save approximately 1 to 1.5 watts of power on idle, which when you have like a 50-watt battery or a 36-watt battery,
I will take anything I can get.
Additionally, the Intel HDA audio codec power saving is now enabled by default with a 1-second timeout, which I think that's pretty good. 1 second means if there's nothing going out over the sound card for over a second, if you think about it, that's a pretty long time in computer land. And then that saves about 0.4 watts of power on idle. Now, finally, USB auto suspend for USB Bluetooth receivers has been enabled by default, which saves an additional 0.4 watts of power. You combine all that together, and it's pretty noteworthy. And again, not the only distro to do it, but I think it's pretty nice to see Fedora including this stuff by default, and I think everybody would agree with that. And then, of course, the headline feature, the biggest deal, is that it's shipping with GNOME 3.28, which includes the new Thunderbolt Bolt D support, which is that system daemon for security for the security of Thunderbolt devices when they connect, and allows GNOME Shell to interact and alert you about that. And then finally, for RMS sake, they're including VirtualBox guest editions by default now, and they're shipped in the Fedora Workstation install. Any installation of Fedora Workstation as a guest on VirtualBox will have the guest edition features working out of the box.
I think that just plays to your case that these are developer-aimed improvements, right?
But nice. I mean, really, really, really nice.
I will say they have a little blurb in here about the streamed-on installation. I was skeptical. I've been something of an Anaconda hater in the past, but it's better. It's getting better.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see it. Yeah, it was pretty painless.
Yeah, it was. I went through an installation on a laptop earlier today, and I let it do the auto disk partitioning for the first time, and it uses LVM and it makes some sane judgments. And the other thing I've noticed is I feel like it's faster now to when it's actually throwing files on the disk.
I agree, yeah.
Did you, it felt like it was already copying files before well, part of it is because it does like a post install too, where it runs you through creating the wizard for users and setting a few other small details about the system. So it takes that out of the installation process. So you're really in the installation, you're setting your disk configuration, you're adding a user account, and you're setting your time zone. And then there's final details it'll ask you after the system boots. And in fact, you don't even have to add a user account necessarily.
Oh, that's perfect.
You just, and you just get to blasting files on the system. It's a really good version of Fedora 28. And since Ubuntu is shipping the same version of GNOME, I'll just say this now, and maybe if anybody in the mumble room wants to chime in with their thoughts, this is by far the best version of GNOME I've ever used. It is cleaner, simpler, and more efficient than macOS. I think it is, if Apple were to have to hit the reset button today, if macOS wasn't nearly a 14-year-old operating system, but say it was 9 months old, I really think this is what they would have as a goal. The new system settings is just, it's so good. Like the Adaptia theme now is good. Ubuntu's theme it feels a little old to me, but in actuality, GNOME still looks great. It still looks good. So it's such a good version of GNOME. It's not one that's pulling me back to GNOME, but if you are a GNOME user, GNOME 3.28 really nails it. And of course, Fedora's always got a great implementation. Does anybody in the mumble room have any thoughts on the GNOME aspect, either for Ubuntu or Fedora?
So this begs the question, has it crashed for you yet?
Well, I've only used it a little bit. I have not, and I'm not using it in production. I don't have any intention to. So I'll see. In the review after I've used it for a couple of weeks, we'll see. At least get a week into it. But if you are a GNOME fan, it definitely feels pretty fast. It always feels good on a clean install, but it just is so great. It's definitely worth it.
One thing I really appreciate that because when I'm running GNOME on Arch or something else, I'm really fine with GNOME defaults. I don't do a ton of tuning to it. They do a little bit more than even I'm willing to do on most installations. So it's just pleasant.
Yeah, and GNOME Photos also is now the default in Fedora 28. That's finally coming along. It's been a long time coming. Just small things, lots of small things in there. Check it out. We'll have links in the show notes if you guys would like. But last chance, if you guys out there have any thoughts before I get to my review, let me know. Go to linuxunplug.com/contact and send me in your thoughts, and I'll or something like should try on Fedora, because since it's not my daily driver, love to know. Also, linuxunplug.com/contact. Last chance to get in before the review comes, because I always be down for trying something, or your experiences also really good.
Yeah,
I'll share an experience with you, Wes. How about that?
Please do.
You ready
curious.
for this? Linux.ting.com.
Linux.ting.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Linux.ting.com. It's mobile that's better than unlimited. If you just use less, you pay less. You don't have to pay for a whole bunch of minutes or a ton of SMS messages. I don't know if I used a single SMS message last month. I don't actually think I did. The only thing I might have done to trigger an SMS message would be to log into a Twitter account from like a new installation, and then it does like that SMS verify thing that I hate so much. That might have been it. And there's other ways to get to that. So why pay for messages?
There's no need. There's no reason.
I don't even need 100 messages, let alone 1,000 or whatever.
It's not 2001 anymore.
Yeah,
it's not.
It's not. And you've got Wi-Fi at work, so why are you paying for data when you're not using it? Or if you got Wi-Fi at home? It doesn't make any sense. And you might have better signal on GSM networks in your area or maybe on CDMA. So why can't you choose? See, that's all just normal with Ting. You pick and choose what works best for you. There's no contract. There's no early termination fee. It's really mobile the way it should be. If the whole market had to start over today, this is what they would have to do. I get messages all the time from people outside the country. They're like, that's how it kind of works here. That's how, the way Ting works, that's kind of how it works here. And I'm like, yeah. That's not how it works here in the States, and that's what makes Ting so great. It's pay for what you use. 6 minutes for the line, and then just whatever you use, minutes, messages, and megabytes, boom, you're done. You don't want it. You don't want the phone anymore, you turn it off, you're done. You want to bring over a new phone, you can activate the whole freaking thing through their webpage. They got a BYOD page where you can double-check everything. You put in the ESIN or whatever it is through the website, boom, activate, you're done. You never even had to talk to a human being, but here's the crazy thing. If you need to, they've got really nice ones. Friendly support people that are actually phone geeks. Crazy concept. Control panel to manage everything, and then great support to back it up. You can buy a device directly. It's not loaded with like the Ting experience. They're not gonna prevent updates because they need to get their new Ting video store on your phone. They don't do any of that stuff. You just want to use them for simple services, or you want to use them as your main internet connection. Ting don't care, and you can get started at linux.ting.com. Take $25 off a device, or get $25 in service credit if you bring one. That's linux.ting.com, and a big thank you to Ting for sponsoring this here program, linux.ting.com. Now, did you hear the story that we covered in Linux Action News this week? Google has just forked a popular GTK theme. And what are they doing? What are they doing?
I really want to know.
It's like Adaptia, but it's Googleified, paperized, and blued. And it's a new GTK theme that's got a material design, and it looks pretty good. It's called Cross Adaptia right now, and it's up on Google's Code Hub. And commits show that their designers are already busy making changes and adjustments to the theme. And it looks like it's something that'll be used on Chrome OS as part of their new Linux application containers, which starts to suggest that we're not just going to be seeing a terminal for SSH, but perhaps the ability to run things like Eclipse or other GTK applications inside Chrome OS. And you got to figure Google's designing this for end users if they're going in to the trouble of creating their own theme that looks like other Google properties.
This is a lot of specific work for something else, right? It's not just a whim. There's people being paid to work on this.
So why does Chrome OS have its own theme now, Wes? What do you think's going on here? Are we going to start seeing Linux desktop apps on Chrome OS?
I'm kind of concerned. I'm kind of excited. What does it do to their sort of mantra of these are like simple machines that you can't mess up, that aren't complicated for people to use? I know they're implementing it, with containers and other technologies to sort of keep things isolated and controlled, but it might seem like a different sell to, a simple user.
Yeah. I wonder if it's not just, it could just be about adding additional value to Chromebooks to make them more appealing to businesses or system administrators and developers. Could totally be all of that. But I do also have some conspiracy bacon.
Fry it up for me.
We've been eating a lot of meat these last few days here at the studio, so why not fry up a little bacon? And I'll tell you what I think it is. And I hope I'm wrong, but I think Fuchsia OS is going to replace the underpinnings of Android as the core operating system. They're going to boot Linux out of Android, and it could be semi-devastating for Linux. I'm not the only person that thinks this, obviously, but some people I really respect recently have been talking more and more about it. And it seems like Fuchsia OS could be the perfect little wedge to get Linux out, to just get rid of all of that pain in the arse LTS issue, pain in the arse GPL stuff, have their own OS in there that's been purpose-built to power mobile devices. And they essentially would dump Linux for their Android platform, and at the same time double down on Linux on the Chrome OS platform. So Chrome OS will stay Linux. Chrome OS will have the ability to run Linux applications. Chrome OS will have the ability to run the terminal. You'll have complete Linux environments in these containers. They may even go the direction of Windows 10 and start offering different distro environments that are similar to like the Windows subsystem where you can pull down Ubuntu or you can pull down SUSE. They're going to have probably, the same thing, CentOS, Ubuntu containers, maybe not initially.
Right. This is reminding me also kind of got like a Mac feel. They've got their separate phone controlled environment and then maybe something a little more developer power user friendly on the desktop.
Yeah. And you could see how that would be appealing to them.
Right.
And I don't know about that because I feel like if Android switched away from Linux development could lose quite a bit of momentum. But it does seem like this is where this is going. Anybody in the mumble room have any thoughts on my bacon?
Well, we're just about a week away from Google I/O, so we could hear some stuff next week.
Yep. Yeah, we may have answers sooner than later. I'm planning to cover bits of I/O that are interesting in Tech Talk today. And I'll probably, if there's anything very Linux specific, I'll cover it here in this show. All right. Well, there you go. Google's now got their new theme, and we covered it more in Linux Action News if you want more detail. But I think that's kind of a big deal, and I don't know about Chrome OS. I think it would be great in all. Regardless of what happens with Android, I think this move would be great. I think about
as
all
an
the
end
kids.
user, right?
Yeah. We'll pause and allow for dog clearing. Let's see. While we're talking, let's see. Beep, 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 boop. Anybody else in the mumble room have anything they want to say on Chrome having its own GTK theme before we move on? Everybody?
Just proves GTK is great.
Just proves, yeah. Do you want to say? Do you have more to say on that? I could, when we come back, I could toss it to you.
Oh no.
Oh, okay. All right.
I want to start a fight.
Whoops.
All right, so where should I reset there? What do you think? What did I say?
What did you say? Something as like an end user, you're talking about like excited to see it, regardless of Android.
Yeah, I'll just start there again. Yeah, that's probably a good spot to just start there. Okay. Well, regardless of my bacon and regardless of Android, I think this is great for Chrome OS because it means more desktop Linux apps in way, way more users' hands at a lower point of entry for cost. And in some cases, like my kids, they get these books via school, the Chromebooks. They just, boom, here you go, here, kid. Here's an entire laptop with the Google Chrome browser on it. Have at it.
That makes me a lot more excited, right? There's a terminal there they can actually play with and learn from. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Dar, were you going to say something?
What you mean is now everybody pays for laptops made to sell services, not made for you to own them.
Here, try saying that again because you're breaking up, and I think you might be able to punch it through if you say it again.
I just think now everybody's signing up for laptops that are made to sell services, not made for you to own them.
Yeah, it kind of comes through. I know what you're saying, though. You're saying, yeah. Try it one more time.
I think you are everybody now is paying for laptops that are made for selling services, not for you to own them.
That's a fair point. Yeah, their goal here is to get more people locked into Google services, and they're going to use Linux apps as the way to sweeten that pot. That makes me feel horrible now.
Not even that. Not even just the Google services. Is the apps will be services.
Yeah. That's creepy. Let's
right.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying too, because realistically, you may have to have like certain Google account to get these things, or you may be controlled through the admin control panel of the community, or the business administrator. So, yeah, okay. Well, I want to change topics now because that's depressing.
Yeah, you're bumming me out. Yeah,
I don't want to get bummed
Keep
out.
this train going.
Yeah, we had an interesting chat at Linux Fest Northwest with one Mr. Alan Jude about BPF. Now, you may have heard, and there's an article that I'll link to that was posted just a couple of days ago. Why is the kernel community replacing IB tables with BPF? And this is a pretty complicated little system that'll be living inside the kernel. There's a great talk that just came out recently that really explains it. This is essentially an entire virtual machine that will be running inside the Linux kernel. Now, I know that sounds like a really bad idea, but there's other virtual machines that already exist that we just don't really talk about very much. It's already happened. That damage has been done. This will be one of many, and they're really on the right track. They look like they're securing this thing well. And Jed, Wes, and Alan Jude were sitting down at the booth at Linux Fest Northwest, and the topic came up, and I thought it'd be great to get the clarification on what BPF is right here on the show.
The successor to IP tables is NF tables, right? Okay. So there's a successor to that now, too.
I was reading a little bit about that.
Yeah, is that EBF tables?
EBPF is
EBPF?
EBPF is the tracing framework. I think this is just a BPF-based firewall thing.
Right.
So do you know what BPF stands for?
A Berkeley packet filter.
Yes. Boom. So, you're like, oh, look, if we compile the firewall rules down to a BPF, we can match them fast like TCP dump does.
Yeah.
Do you know what firewall's been doing that for 20 years?
Oh, yeah.
IPFW on
Yeah,
BSD.
totally.
It turns out there's a fast way to do a firewall.
Yeah.
It's because, oh, look, this machine language is specifically designed to match packets.
Exactly.
It's really good at matching packets.
Yeah, totally.
Well, writing rules can be difficult.
Yep.
Like just the syntax between TCP dump and Wireshark.
Yep.
That they don't use the same syntax, and I find it continually confusing.
right.
I'll jump from one to the other, and I just
Context
have to go,
switching and
I have to go back to the web page and look up more examples because I can't remember them all.
Yeah, back in school, for our firewall class, we learned 3 firewalls: IP tables, IPF, which is the predecessor to PF on FreeBSD and OpenBSD, and Cisco PIC. Although was it PIC? Something. The Cisco we had was literally like a 486 based appliance.
Oh, wow.
Like we had the old one.
Okay,
Before they made it a dedicated, it was like a regular 486 with some firewall cards in it or something.
Wow.
It was
but
weird.
the Cisco PIC, that's been dead for a decade.
Oh, yeah.
It should have been.
Yes. So it was pretty much dead when we were learning it. But it was, the syntax is pretty similar to what you would get on a newer Cisco, like an ASA or whatever.
Sure. Even ASAs are out of fashion, aren't they?
In particular, we had one client who was doing some streaming video. It was TV Ontario had this system called Homework Help, where after school they would pay some teachers to be available via like a internet chat thing to help you with your math homework. And every student in like grade 7 through 10 got it for free.
Wow!
If they were enrolled in a public school. But they would have a streaming video part too, and they were pushing up to like 600 megabits out of the network. And their Cisco ASA couldn't handle that.
Couldn't keep up.
So we replaced that with we turned their dev server into a pfSense, and now we can push a gigabit with no problem.
No problem.
Yeah, that's Alan's way of saying it's because of performance. It's because you can compile it down to this machine language, and the rules can be executed wicked fast. He goes into some bottleneck troubleshooting that he did for a 40 gigabit. I think it was actually 2, so it was in total 80 gigabits worth of transfer bottleneck troubleshooting he did on a FreeBSD system in this week's episode of TechSnap.
Yeah, go check that out.
Yeah, techsnap.systems. But BPF is coming, IP tables is out. And speaking of other things that are just coming down the pipe not too far away is the next version of Elementary OS. And I am getting a little hyped, I got to be honest, and that might be because Mr. Daniel Foray keeps stopping by and telling me about all the great stuff. And this one speaks to me, Dan, deeply, deeply speaks to me. I love the stuff in the new update you guys posted about notifications. And I didn't realize how much freaking work you guys had put into it, like the heuristics that you had in place, but now are coming out. Can you kind of recap what's going on here?
Yeah, so kind of historically, what happened was last cycle we introduced this notifications indicator, right? So that when an app sends a notification and you miss it, the notifications indicator will catch it and you can review it later. Same as you have on like notifications that are on your phone. The problem is that only some applications were actually sending their ID with the notification. So some notifications come through and we didn't really know which app it's from. So we had this heuristic in place to try to guess. And it sometimes was wrong. And so we get people saying, hey, your notifications indicator is broken. It doesn't work. It does it wrong. And we're saying, well, the problem was that these applications never sent an ID. And so it was kind of hard to say, hey, this is not really our fault while we still had this heuristic in. So now we're pulling the heuristic out, and any application that doesn't send its ID is just going to be categorized as other. But at the same time, we went and we submitted patches upstream to Electron, into Firefox, and into libnotify to make sure that application developers had an easy way to make sure their applications are reporting their ID correctly and didn't have to use like the raw dbus API.
And I would imagine Electron apps are probably the most frequent offender of this missing ID.
Yeah, and the Electron patch has actually been committed upstream as well.
Oh,
so
great.
Nice. Yeah, that's good to see.
hopefully that'll fix it for all Electron apps. And this isn't just specific to Elementary OS and Pantheon. This is actually how I did notifications identify in GNOME Shell as well.
Oh, that's awesome. So that'll be great for GNOME users. Everybody wins. Now,
Exactly.
What's the libnotify part for? It sounds like it's involved with notifications, but what specifically is libnotify responsible for?
So there's so we have a problem because way back in the day there was a specification proposed that was the free desktop notification specification, but it only kind of lived on the GNOME wiki, and it was kind of adopted de facto by a bunch of different desktops, but it never really made it into free desktop. And libnotify kind of represents that spec. Well, GNOME added G notification to their stack, and this is kind of a new version of the spec, but it's not really compatible with the old libnotify version, and all of the GNOME apps use G notification. And so it's like different libraries that kind of do the same thing but don't all kind of respect each other. So there's a bigger story, and we're trying to work closer with upstreams to make sure that we all kind of agree, like, what should the spec be and what should it support, and try to make sure that things work good across desktops. But this is kind of a first step.
Right on. And also just honorable mention here, Files is looking so good, and it sounds like
so clean.
Yeah, look at that.
I mean, beautiful.
We are looking at a picture of it here in the studio, and we'll have a link at linuxunplugged.com/247 if you guys want to read Dan's whole post and see the picture of it. It is great looking, Dan, and I got to say, it sounds like a lot of the back end is sort of getting retooled to match the more modern development processes on Elementary OS.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that some people might know that Files is our oldest app. We started way back in the very beginning with the Nautilus fork, and then we eventually kind of outgrew that and then wrote this file manager Marlin. And the modern day Elementary Files comes from that background. So it was a C app. It was before we adopted Vala. So we're kind of still migrating that code base, and this cycle we were able to do way more of that and a lot of cleanup and migrating to better versions of utilities from upstream libraries like GTK and GIO instead of using our own internal libraries. So that's, performance improvements, stability improvements, more maintainable code. It's just getting way better all around.
Yeah, that does sound really good. Well, I will definitely kick the tires when it comes out. Any other honorable mentions you want to toss out from the post before we leave the rest to the listener at home to read?
One thing actually I'm really excited about is improvements going into elementary code.
Oh yeah.
And we landed support for editor config by default in elementary code last month, and this month we have it turned on and enabled out of the box. And now the guys over at elementary code drew a nice little icon for us, and we're on their homepage now.
That looks so good. We're seeing some steady updates to code this cycle. Like, this has gotten a lot of attention.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. We're definitely trying to get more feedback from developers about the tooling on our platform and documentation, and find out like how we can meet their needs and make it really easy to write applications for App Center and Elementary OS.
I love the focus. You know, there's so much focus on application developers. You're actually curating this really great environment for people to do that. So all these improvements, people are just going to be happier to be there.
That's how we got up to 87 new native.
Wow.
I was just gonna
GTK
ask.
applications. Right?
87. That is really good. That's gonna be that'll be a strong amount in the App Center when Juno releases. That's really cool. Now, how close are we getting to a beta release here? Because I know there's just under 10 bugs left to get squashed.
We are so super close. So we're kind of looking at like if we can maybe punt a couple of those issues to the second beta so we can get a public beta out sooner, and like what are the other release tasks we have to do with the website and things like that. So I'm trying to get it pushed out ASAP, and I'm working with our teams to make that happen. But as it stands right now, we just have those 7 issues left on our tracker.
7. Ooh. Okay.
I'm excited.
I like that it's not a date. It's when the issues are closed, or when the issues can be at least punted to the next beta that comes out. I think that's great. Well, Dan, keep us posted, because it's a fascinating case study to watch this for the show, and it's fun to see how you guys work, the thought you put into all of this, how it all has kind of been coming together over the last year, and we're so close now that you got to keep us posted, because we're almost to the goal, which is the Juno release. All right.
Will do.
Well, we have much, much more to talk about as the show goes on. I'm really looking forward to covering some important news and then talking a little Darktable, because this is, I think, going to be one of my new tools in my bag. But before we get there, I got to mention the tool that I've had for years now, and that's the tools over at DigitalOcean. And you can be one too. do.co. Wait, hold on. Let me get the prop out. Sorry.
You gotta rustle it.
There we go. Oh, yeah.
It's so fresh.
It's not to really.
No, not anymore.
I've done a lot of rustling. do.co/unplugged. Go there to get a $100 credit when you sign up with a new account. Yeah, I said $100. Yeah, I know we usually say $10. I said $100, and with the 3 cents an hour, my favorite rig, I mean, you're going to go nuts. do.co/unplugged. DigitalOcean is simple infrastructure that you can deploy and use it in production, use it for testing, use it for learning in less than 55 seconds. And everything is SSDs. Every single machine, they have 12 data centers around the world. They got 40 gigabit connections coming into those hypervisors. The whole stack runs Linux, KVM for the virtualizer. Then they put an amazing interface that no one else in the industry can touch on top of all of it. They call it the dashboard. It's a dashboard for days. And then to make things better, they've got an API that's well documented, clear, easy to read, and I'm pretty sure that dashboard is a client of that API, because everything the dashboard supports you can do in the API. That's great, because that means there's a ton of open source code that's already written that you can take advantage of. Good to go. Just have at it, Haas, or build something yourself from the ground up. do.co/unplugged. But it gets even better. Even now, what has 1804 been out but just a few days? They are rapidly updating their documentation. I just today read a guide on how to configure Apache with an SSL cert on 1804 in just a few minutes. Easy to read, clear documentation. They're updating everything for the new releases. You can spin up whichever version of Linux you like, or you can even deploy that free BSD. I know. And they also recently announced flexible droplets, where you can mix and match the different things that you need. So maybe you need a lot of CPU for your application, more CPU. You don't need much disk? Yeah, just put it all in CPU. Or you want a ton of disk because you're doing some logging and you don't need a ton of RAM or CPU, or whatever you need, you mix and match. Flexible droplets, $15 a month. With that $100 credit, you can get pretty far. Just go to do.co/unplugged. That's do.co/unplugged. And a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Unplugged program. Random excessive paper flopping, and oops, just tore a little more. Look at that. Do. I don't know how much longer that's holding up. .co/unplugged. I think once that paper's ripped, they're going to end the $100 deal. I think that's good, so you better go soon. Okay, let's just talk about a little serious news before we get to the Darktable stuff, because this is just a heads up. If you are a Void Linux user, you need to be paying really close attention to a situation that's been going on for a while, and isn't really moving anywhere, and you could end up getting misinformation. So I want you to just kind of track this in the show. We'll keep links in the show notes. I may even try to retroactively update the show notes for 247 down the road if anything changes. So linuxunplugged.com/247 for those. But right now, the Void Linux maintainers have lost contact with the guy that used to be the head manager of Void. I don't know how to put this. It's really awkward. Basically, the project leader has disappeared, and they have no contact with him since the end of January. They've had no meaningful contact really for over a year with him.
Wow.
And he's got, the keys to several things like the GitHub page, the IRCs, the domains. They've tried to contact GitHub, and GitHub told them to go F a duck, that they weren't interested in this dramatic situation. They've contacted Freenode support, but they really haven't gotten very far with that yet. And they've gotten partial control over voidlinux.com, but they don't have control over the one that people use the most, which is voidlinux.eu, which is the one they really want. And they're in limbo, they say, trying to get back on track. They don't see any possibility of regaining access to the GitHub organization, so they're going to have to move to a new GitHub organization. They feel like it may be the same for domains. And for the IRC channels, they're still trying to get in contact with Freenode. Now, this has been going on since January, and I didn't really know what to do with this, because I thought, is somebody sick? Is somebody, are they missing? I didn't know what was going on with the project leader, but I've heard from a few folks who say that they just kind of went AWOL, and that it might be like he's fine health-wise, but no longer interested in doing the project or something like that.
Missing in action here.
And isn't this always the concern about these mom-and-pop small distros?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and if you're going to make it, if you're going to involve the community and you're going to have other people that feel responsible for the project, then it's probably essential to set up some sort of minimal governance process, or at least, make it so that one bus accident can't take out the whole project.
Yeah, and you don't want to undermine the Linux community's faith in small distros,
Right.
because if nobody's going to be willing to give a small distro a try, they'll never become a big distro, and then we have a chicken and the egg problem. And the only solution I really see for this is something similar to Canonical's Ubuntu flavors, where you kind of graduate into an official member of the Ubuntu community, and there's some governance. I believe you have to adhere to. Obviously, Wimpy or Popey could speak much more coherently to this, and there's at least some assurance of a structure as an end user. It feels like some test must have been passed. Maybe Wimpy, why don't you start with, since you have so much experience with Mate? Is my read on that right? Like, is there some sort of assurance if it's becoming of an official flavor that it's not just going to go away one day?
Yeah, so the first thing is in order to become an official flavor of Ubuntu, you have to demonstrate that you have some sort of long-term maintainership of the packages that are specific to the flavor that you want to create. So in the case of Ubuntu Mate, back in the day, I had to demonstrate that I had been maintaining those packages in Debian for 6 months before we were granted flavor status, and that's for the flavor itself. Following that, then you can become an Ubuntu member, which also is a demonstration of a long-term commitment to the Ubuntu project, and that buys you some additional rights within the Ubuntu project, such as voting powers for the councils and what have you. So there is some process there to ensure that people coming into the project have already got a track record of being long-term contributors to the thing that they want to work on.
Okay, that makes sense. So I want to bounce around here a bit. I want to go to Dan. He has a point about open governance, and then I want to go to Eric after that. So Dan, why don't you bring up your point about open governance, and not just even for open source, but just in general? Where'd you go, Dan?
I could chime in.
Oh, sorry about that.
Nope,
my mic was off.
That's all right. It's okay.
So anyway, there was a point about like bus factor, right? And this isn't just necessarily about
will you
someone.
Pause there? Will you start with start? So don't say so anyway. So that way, because
my bad.
Joe will just clean it up. So that way you were never gone. Just start with like think about the bus factor or something like that. Something natch.
Okay, we'll come back in. Yeah, there's a point that was made earlier about bus factor, right? And so it's not just necessarily if someone voluntarily steps down, but you never know, what's going to happen in their life. But I remember there's a thing in the Canonical code of conduct or Ubuntu code of conduct about gracefully stepping down, right? And I think everybody should kind of have this idea built into their governance of what happens when someone needs to step down.
Yeah. Okay. And Eric, you've had some experience with this with Ubuntu Studio recently.
That's correct. It's been a whirlwind. Basically, what's happened is Seth Hallstrom, he's the project leader for Ubuntu Studio. He just completely ran out of physical time in his life to be able to be dedicated to the project. So about 6 months ago, they were kicking around the idea of making it an Ubuntu Studio Council. Well, there were a handful of people that got into it, but nothing really ever came of it. So in February, they reassessed and said, hey, we want to try to make this go forward. And but nobody was really stepping up. So I finally hey, I'll step up. I'll join the council. I'll help to lead this thing. And in that time, I started running the meetings that we're having every week, and basically started. We put together the council. I became the council chair since I was the one running the meetings already, and then Ross Gammon, who is the release manager, he had to step out due to timing reasons as well. So then I stepped in to be the release manager. So it's been a real whirlwind, but this is one of those things where if you can open it up to like a council type idea where you have a bunch of people helping to lead the project, the buzz factor gets significantly lower.
I believe there's another better strategy that nobody really mentioned.
Go ahead.
Money. You know, if you buy something, there's a contract there. And if you're actually willing to pay for the development of the distro you use, you incentivize the person. And if something else fails, like you lost control of the person just disappeared, there's no control of the website, you can actually prove legal ties to that project. You can actually, as a collective ownership, get that. And that actually is a better, I believe, better business model for the creator to have an incentive to stay, for the people using the software to have actually demonstration of possession of the product. And ultimately, that should simplify the whole thing. And why does Canonical Flavors work? Because Canonical has money to maintain it.
Well, there's other. Okay,
not,
go ahead.
It's not about money. The project, when it first started off, it's about people. It's about community. It's about the fact that there are people willing to step up and look after things. And as Dan said, the community came together and made a code of conduct that said, look, if you can't do this anymore, everyone has real life, people have children, get married, take a sabbatical, change direction, buy a Mac, whatever it is, they might move away from your open source project. And if they do, so long as they hand over gracefully, then it's fine. And one of the things we've done in Ubuntu, which I know a lot of other projects do as well, is when you create something, you create it in a way that it's not just you that looks after it. So for example, if you create an IRC channel on Freenode, just as a simple example, if you create an official Ubuntu channel, so that means it starts with hash Ubuntu dash something, right? So you create a new IRC channel. We recommend that you give rights to that channel to the Ubuntu IRC Council, so that in the event that you got hit by a bus or your IRC account was compromised, or you had a baby or bought a Mac or whatever it is, someone else could take over and then hand that on to the next person. It's not that you're a bad person for moving on. It's not that any money changed hands in any way, shape or form. There was nothing about money. It's just about people and process, and having a simple process in place which allows things to move from one person to the next person down the line.
I do kind of agree about if you have this as your primary form of income, though there is kind of more of an obligation, right? Like if you depend on this open source project to put food on your table, you're much less likely to buy a Mac.
Yeah, and not only that, actually there's the other part, which is when you are stepping down. I'm talking about, let's say you get hit by a bus and you really wanted to control things on your own. You didn't really trust anybody at the time you started the project, because this counseling thing is very pretty but requires trust. Like, you're talking to other people that you may have seen or not, and this takes time to build that trust. Until then, you're really not assigning things you paid for where your name lies on to other people. So ultimately, it's a process. And until that time, if the monetary incentive is there, it facilitates the number one, you being incentivized to actually be responsible to the stuff you're putting out. And secondly, there's legal ways for people to get to you if you're not putting it out, if there's a commitment to it. And ultimately, even if you disappear, it is easier to prove because there's transaction records. And to get something done. While if nothing exists, you really don't.
This also
that might be true, but that's not how it worked in Ubuntu.
Now, this is also really kind of a benefit of an organization like the Software Freedom Conservancy. Now, you don't really see a lot of distributions underneath it, although I don't know if that's entirely true. But you do see a lot of large projects underneath it, and the Conservancy provides a infrastructure to open source and free software to focus on what they do. They do the code, and they do all of the the legal stuff and the operational stuff, and take care of make sure your donations are legal and stuff, and documentation for certain aspects of the business. And that's sort of what some of the services that the Conservancy offers. And I don't know, maybe one day the Conservancy would extend that to more and more distros. I don't know. I don't think the solution is really easily attainable for how to make sure these small distros don't go away, because you're still dealing with perhaps potentially tens of thousands of end users that just kind of get caught in whatever drama is going on behind the scenes. But additionally, I think it does an untold amount of damage to the reputation of Linux, of open source development, and I heard a term the other day that I just really got me mad, and it was a derogatory term for the reliability of open source developers, and the podcaster said, well, he's just really open sourcey. He's just open sourcey.
Ooh, I don't like the sounds of that.
Well, and I'm like, what does that mean? Well, he just doesn't do a good job, and he just sort of flaked out. He's open sourcey, and I was like, I don't know. It really got me upset. Were you gonna say something, Wimpy?
Well, I was about to. I was saying what open sourcey like Linus Torvalds, who's been doing what he's doing for 26 years.
Yeah. Oh, I'm actually angry right now. My heart rate is up just even recalling it. I got so upset by it. So, all right, let's change gears to something that makes me happy.
Yeah,
there is
please.
a new release of Darktable this week. Version 2.4.3 comes out, and it's perfect timing because I'm just kind of getting my Darktable on. And Brent, your timing was really good. Brent is a professional photographer by trade. We're going to have some of his photos linked in the show notes. And you've been using Darktable for how long?
I've been using Darktable since about, I believe it's 2012, maybe even 2011.
So you've been watching the development for a while.
Yeah.
And you use it for a professional workflow. Like you were working here today at the studio, and you were touching up photos all day in Darktable.
I would say for me professionally, it's 80%, maybe even 90% of where I do all my work.
Really? Okay. Well, see, this makes me pretty excited because I always thought Darktable was for only individuals like yourself. But Brent stopped by the booth at Linux Fest Northwest. That's where we met him, and he told me an anecdote that made me realize that even I could probably figure out Darktable.
Maybe I think it was about actually a week ago. I was invited to do a workshop at a Makers Fest, which was a first thing for me and really great. And I thought, okay, how do I introduce some sort of Linux or open source into this? Because I actually didn't see very much of that in there. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do a workshop based on using Darktable because people get easily attracted to photography, and that's my specialty. But I'm going to introduce it in a way that applies to any user. So I ended up with a class full of people that were ranging from enthusiasts all the way to kids. And actually the kids were the ones that picked up on it the fastest. And so there's the beauty about Darktable, I think, is that it can be extremely powerful and extremely flexible, but it can also be very, very simple. So if you just determine a workflow that is 1, 2, 3 steps, then your adjustments and your cropping is just slider bars.
So that's the way to go.
It's super
like
straightforward.
That.
Oh yeah. To ignore like Photoshops and GIMPs and stuff like that for regular everyday stuff.
What would you say are 3 things that you should touch on every photo you take?
So I can tell you that easily. So every single photo, I would say cropping. Okay. In camera, sometimes you don't always do it well, or you get a different idea once you see it on the large screen. So cropping is number 1. And in the cropping tool in Darktable, there's some like skewing of angles, which kind of comes into play as well, and they make it super, super easy. You just right-click and go, this should be straight, and it fixes everything for you. So That's one. Two would be exposure. They have an exposure slide bar with blacks level, and so that can get you pretty darn far. And then color is the third one, I would say.
Like boosted a bit, or what? Like what do you mean when you say color?
Or like white balance kind of a thing.
Right.
Okay.
So if you shot in various environments, sometimes your camera can't.
Yeah.
It's not as good as our eyes at adjusting to color differences, right? So anyone who starts to be able to learn to see color can then determine that, oh wait, this photo would actually be a lot more dynamic if the colors were actually corrected to true. So, for instance, behind you have this crazy green light that keeps changing.
We've noticed, actually.
Which makes it impossible to set our camera.
Right.
Yeah.
So then necessarily, and that's the beauty of RAW, is that you can adjust that later on. So every 30 seconds, you have a different color going on, and I can just correct that later. Right? So,
yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, all right. You did. You convinced me to try it. So I'll install. Actually, we installed it on one of the machines here in the studio already to give it a go.
And Chris, tell me how easy it was to do that. We were talking about that.
That actually, I think, was a big takeaway for me when I was looking at it, and it must be something you appreciate too. Is we didn't have to go log into some proprietary vendor's website and authorize anything.
Find your license key.
Yeah, Brent was like, before I go, I could just take care of these right here. Do you want me to just do that now? And I'm like, okay, apt install Darktable. And he was off and working. But then you have like an extra step that you take. Do you want to share that secret?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I'm not even using the same distribution as you. I'm on Arch, but that doesn't seem to be a problem anywhere. It seems to be a little bit everywhere. But what I've done for myself, because I was thinking something like this may happen in the future, and just for my own to make things easier in my own system, I actually keep my favorite Darktable, like a settings database.
It's like a whole profile?
Yeah, the entire profile that you find under .config.
And that includes like your common colors that you change things to, like your common presets for photo editing?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of presets, so every single module in Darktable can have its own presets or multiple presets. And you can also define defaults for when you import images, what gets applied. So I was able to, despite never having used the laptop that I was on, in 5 minutes I had my own home environment right there.
That is slick.
It's so great. It's so great. And it kind of means, you're not married to any one hardware vendor. You're not married to any one particular OS or even distribution. And Darktable's free software. So you don't even, that's great. And they just recently had an update to GIMP that we covered in Linux Action News.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And GIMP is now working with Darktable, so you can send from Darktable to GIMP, and they're going to understand each other, and it's like a big kumbaya now between the two. And it's a new version of GIMP that looks pretty great.
It does look really nice.
First big update in 6 years.
You can't see that, but I have this giant smile on my face.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, you like it? Are you a GIMP fan?
So the other 20% is I'm doing in GIMP, and I haven't quite launched into Krita yet. But GIMP for me for many, many years has been doing the simple, offering the simple features that I really need when I need that extra 20% of, doing some really specialty photography specific adjustments that need to be done that Darktable just isn't designed for, and I don't think should include anyways. So.
We have a bunch of great photos that have been tweaked by and taken too by Brent in Darktable from Linux Fest Northwest. 158 of them, and they're great. And the cutest pictures of Levi ever.
Oh yeah, ever.
So cute in there. It's ridiculous. If you like puppies, you've got to go check out the link in linuxunplugged.com/247. I'll drop a link to the album in the IRC too if you're watching live. Some really great photos of our party at Lady Jupes that we had out in the parking lot. So Saturday evening of Linux Fest Northwest, we decided to have like a tailgate style party. System 76 brought a ton of meat.
Oh, boy.
I brought 2 barbecues and a table and some camping chairs. I stuffed them all into the bays of Lady Jupes. The advantages of having a Class A is you have some big storage bays. And brought 2 bags of charcoal and a chimney starter. And we put the awning out and started cooking. And we cooked for hours in the parking lot. And Brent was there snapping photos the whole time. It was a lot of fun. We were flying drones and geeking out in the parking lot. And here, oh, jeez, some good pictures right there. And there's
what
we
a
had
crowd.
Good time. Yeah, we had a really good time. And I just thought that was maybe the highlight of the whole thing. So thanks for taking those pictures, and thanks for making them available to the whole audience to check them out too. That's really nice of you.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
And give people a little info maybe if they want to know more about your photography services and whatnot, because I got to tell you, I'd like to bring you out to future events.
Absolutely.
Especially keep taking these cute pictures of Levi. Where should they find you?
Levi's an easy win, right? So website brentgervais.com. So I'll spell that out, BRENTGERVAIS.com. That's just where you can see a little bit of my work. And I'm not super active on social, but you can find me on Twitter, at Brent Gervais. And I guess around the network.
Cool. Yeah, you may hear from him some more in the future, and check out the link in the show notes if you want to see the cutest puppy pictures ever. I mean, that's indisputable.
It's just a fact.
It is not even my bias. It's just purely indisputable. All right. Well, we do have a roundup to get to of Ubuntu 18.04, the flavors, the new features, the server stuff, and maybe even a pretty cool feature that I didn't even think about until I heard about it from Ian at System 76, and I went, why is nobody else doing that? So we'll play a clip from Ian from System 76 about something that Pop! OS is adding that blew my mind. Really made me just really impressed. So we'll get there, but let's talk about Linux Academy. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. That's where you go to sign up for a free 7-day trial and, coincidentally, just surprise, support this show. Yeah. Keep us on the air, maybe even get us to 300 freaking episodes. Maybe this show will have even more episodes than last.
That would be amazing.
Well, people go to linuxacademy.com/unplugged. They'll help us get there, and you'll get a free 7-day trial. It's a platform to learn more about Linux, a full-featured training library with everything you want to get new skills and advance your career. Now, I love the self-paced video courses. This is the sweet stuff. And Linux Academy, I happen to have firsthand experience, is investing in great recording hardware. They've really put a lot of effort into this. They also offer hands-on scenario-based labs. They spin up the system on whatever infrastructure you need. So if it's AWS's, or if it's an OpenStack system, or if it's just, a Debian box, they spin that up for you. You log in over SSH, you get to work, you get a real scenario, something you can take and do in production. And if you ever get stuck, they have full-time human instructors that are happy to help and answer your questions. So you get actual hands-on experience, and you got the humans. That's pretty much as good as it's going to get, because that's all they do is Linux. So they build features in that help you get there, like Learning Paths, which are a series of content and courses planned for instructors that get you into specific career tracks. Or if you're ready to take some big tests, they have courses created specifically to prepare you for certifications. And practice exams too, which I got to tell you, if you don't practice, you probably won't pass. So that's a great feature. And they have a community stacked full of Jupiter Broadcasting members who are surprisingly supportive. It's ridiculous. It's like an educational support group. And they do it all on their own. They're just great people. Try it out, 7 days for free. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Oh! And a big thank you, Linux Academy, linuxacademy.com/unplugged. So this 18.04 release is big. I don't know if you've heard about Ubuntu, but it's a pretty big distribution, and they got all kinds of different flavors. We've never talked about it before on the show, so I can understand if you'd be unfamiliar with this, but there's a bunch of them. And let's talk about some of the main changes that are coming in Ubuntu 18.04 itself. Because we're going to talk about the flavors here, but you're going to get Linux kernel 4.15. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
You're going to get 5 years of support. Of course, this is also the first LTS to support and ship GNOME, where you get X11. You get the new minimal installation feature, which is a little different across the flavors, but it is the best thing that has come to Ubuntu in a really long time. And Ubuntu's live kernel patch service, which I don't think is getting enough play in this release, is now front and center. It's part of the welcome screen when you log in for the first time. There's a GUI to turn it on. Live kernel patching is here. It's available, and I think it's kind of a big deal. And the fact that they've now wrapped a GUI around the whole thing to make it accessible to workstations, I think deserves a little more credit than it's getting. Files is getting a revamped user, or has now, a revamped user interface as well that looks really compact. There's also other things that are just nice to have because it just makes it back to normal. Close, minimize, and maximize buttons are back on the right side of the window. And I do prefer GDM over LightDM, and 18.04 has shipped GDM as the display manager. It's big, it's bulky, it's weird, but I just happen to like it better than LightDM.
It does work.
Well, I find it to be smoother. I don't know what it is. It's like my lock screen and all of it. I find LightDM to be clunky. And I find GDM to, I don't know, it suits my needs better. So those are some of the core big things that are coming in Ubuntu 18.04. And that's what I would look forward to. Also, you've got the other things like the Thunderbolt 3 support. You got GNOME 3.2.8. There's other really nice things. LibreOffice 6.0 is in there, but that's the main things I'd be looking for. And then you have a brand new LTS flavor. For the first time, Ubuntu Budgie 18.04 LTS. This is the first LTS, first official time they've been a flavor during an LTS release. It's going to be supported until April 2021, and it ships with the latest Budgie desktop, 10.4 Irish Summer. And it's accompanied with the GNOME 3.2.8 application. So that's kind of a big deal for them.
Kind of a big deal, yeah.
Congratulations.
It's real now. That's awesome.
Friend of the show, Dustin, and team work on that. And then, of course, you've got all of the flavors that are available for download. Xubuntu, Kubuntu, Ubuntu Mate, Ubuntu proper itself, Kylin. And the flavors come in at 3 years of support instead of the 5 years that the main line gets. Kubuntu, as I've mentioned many times, is shipping Plasma 5.12 LTS. So you've got a whole LTS stack there. Producer Michael has contributed several tweaks, like Plasma Dark by default, or I'm sorry, Breeze Dark.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually really, really well done. VLC is the default video player, which I know a lot of people like. Latte Dock is in the archives, and KDE Connect is pre-installed.
Excellent.
Yeah, also, one of the other things it does is double-click is the default behavior to open files and stuff. Ubuntu 18.04 comes out now with a mostly high DPI support theme, which is good for them. And Studio has an 18.04 release, but it's only going to be supported for 9 months. But they do have a new release. It's there. It's just not an LTS at this time. And then look at that Ubuntu Kylin release. Coming in at 3 years, ideal for Chinese users. But damn if that doesn't look like Windows 7.
It sure does.
I'd say anybody that just prefers the Windows 7 UI and layout, you might just check out Kylin.
With the whole
or Chillin.
wonderful Ubuntu userland.
Is it Chillin, Wimpy? Is it Kylin?
It's Chillin.
Chillin.
And it's based on Mate.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks. What do you think of this? This is
well, it's delightful, right? Because it's really nice to see what we're making being used elsewhere in a very different way.
Yeah.
I mean, they've layered their own tools and utilities on top of it to give it a very distinctive look. Well, they're making what their users want, and it's good to see.
It does look pretty sharp. Do they share the size of the user base? Do we have? I mean, they must be large enough to have gotten flavor status. But since they just are so outside our normal view, I don't really have any idea of how.
I have no idea how big their user penetration is. I think it's considerable.
Yeah, I imagine.
Be interesting to talk to someone.
Yeah, that would be. And then, of course, our friends over at Mate, Ubuntu Mate 18.04, which ships Mate Desktop 1.2.0. It's got that new keyboard-friendly HUD, global menu if you want that mutiny desktop layout, high DPI support that we know Wimpy's been working towards for about 2 years now. Hardware acceleration and Marco. Just like Wes always wants, color emoji support.
Heck yes.
Got the brisk menu in there. You got the improved Mate tweak tool, the new software boutique updates. I mean, I might be a little biased here, but this is one of the strongest flavors by far. 18.04 Ubuntu Mate looks like some of your best work, Wimpy.
Yeah, thank you. That's very kind of you to say so. And my own assessment is it's the best release we've put out by some margin. I was really pleased with 17.10, and when we released that, I felt like that was good enough to be the 18.04 LTS. But it's amazing how much we've got done in the 6 months, because in 17.10 there was no high DPI and there is now. So it just goes to show how much of a hustle we've had on in those last 6 months to really make this LTS something for the next 3 years.
It is really impressive.
That's fantastic.
I think a congratulations to the whole team is in order for that, because it's really nice. I want to also talk about in Ubuntu proper the new welcome screen, because I might be wrong. I haven't dug deep into this, but when you're all kind of done with the new walkthrough, it brings up a new screen that says install some new apps. And you got Spotify on there. You got a lot of really well-known apps like Skype and Slack and more. So is this maybe Poby, maybe you should answer this. I don't know. Is this a snap screen? Are these all snaps? Are these all snap apps if I click one of those?
They are. Every single one of them is a snap. They're a selection of applications that we thought people who are coming from other platforms might like the familiarity of. So, people who are coming from Windows or Mac or anywhere else might like to see, I can get Spotify on here, I can get Slack, or I can chat to my friends on Discord, or my kids can play Minecraft on here, or if I'm a developer, I can easily get Android Studio. So there's a whole set of applications, plus, your favorite open source things like Brave Browser and GIMP and all kinds of other stuff in there.
Well, I just noticed that I recently seem to be able to tell the installation spread across the different versions of Ubuntu. I don't know is that something that's recently being published in the Snap Store. All of a sudden, I'm seeing how comparatively how many 1804 users over 1604, and it seems like this must be having some traction because the 1804 numbers are skyrocketing right now.
Yeah, they really are.
The view you're seeing there in the Snap Store is a logarithmic scale of which platform those snaps are being installed on, and it's to represent that you can install these snaps in lots of different places, and here are some of the places that you might find users who are using those things.
Okay, that's a nice stat to have. I really do appreciate having there. And when I saw the 1804 numbers, I mean, it's already like the #1 on some of those snaps. It's really,
it's gone mad.
Yeah,
it's I think it's all. If it hasn't already, it's probably close to overtaking the 1710 numbers already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked a couple of hours ago, and it's just nudging the 1710 numbers.
Yeah, I'm looking at VLC right now, and exactly that. And then after that, it'll be on to 1604, which is remarkable, and it tells you that I think that welcome screen is a great idea. I'm glad that was
so.
added.
I think we'll see those numbers move a bit more soon, because we haven't turned on the prompts for 1710 users to get the prompt to upgrade to 1804. So that will be later this week. And then, of course, around June, July time, the 1604 users will get the prompt when we release 1804.1. So, the ramp up of 1804 at the moment is all people clean installing or deliberately choosing to do the upgrade. So we'll see that rock on a bit more as the upgrade prompts kick in.
I wonder, does anybody have a guess to the if you take out 1804, 1710, and 1604, the next top distro is not an Ubuntu distro for the Slack Snap. Does anybody have a guess what distro it is? It's not an Ubuntu distro.
Arch Linux.
That's a good guess. I see Neon on here. I see Linux Mint, Zorin. Arch is a little bit further down the road. No, Elementary 0.41 is the next distro after Ubuntu 1804 right now for the Slack Snap.
Those elementary users, they love their Slack.
Yeah, they certainly do.
Right? Yeah.
They're getting their work done. That's why they need to get their notifications done right. It's a good thing you're getting that done, Dan. That's pretty cool. It's pretty neat to see that. Debian 9's doing pretty good. Neon 1604 is doing good. Fedora 27 on the list. Pretty cool. I like that you guys are releasing that. I'm going to keep an eye on that from now on. It's interesting to sort of compare the different apps and see what different distros shake out. Same with MailSpring. It's the same kind of spread on MailSpring. Yeah, people on elementary OS are just getting some damn work done, apparently.
What it's there for.
I'm going to pause for 1 second while Siren goes. We got sirens.
Sirens all over.
Let's see, anything else? Oh, yeah, the cloud stuff I want to mention, and then some Pop OS stuff.
Cloudy with a chance of Ubuntu.
Multi-cloud operations, says Mark Shuttleworth. All right, I think it's passed.
Shall I give you an 1804 feature that we've inherited from Debian?
Yeah,
that is really rather nifty.
How can I set you up? Because I'm about to hit record again now that the sirens pass. What would be a good? What should I say? I'll say this. So before we get to the cloud, I know Wimpy. I'll just say something like that. Okay.
Ask him what's good for people like you, Chris.
Okay. All right. Now we can't really have a 1804 release discussion without getting to some of the cloud stuff, because that's just a huge part of what Ubuntu does now. But I know that Wimpy might have a story that someone like myself could appreciate.
Yeah, so we've inherited a couple of features from Debian's current developments that I think might be up your alley.
Oh.
The first is if you install FFmpeg and you've got an NVIDIA card,
when you install the NVIDIA proprietary drivers, that will automatically enable NVENC capability on the FFmpeg on the host. And also, if you install OBS, that will automatically pick up the fact that you have NVENC enabled FFmpeg and turn on the hardware acceleration for you.
Wow, I was literally just talking to Wes about this before the show, about how we were reviewing if we really needed to have the NVIDIA card during this last, Linux Fest rebuild, and we landed on firmly, yep, we still have to have the NVIDIA card. We still got to have that acceleration. So that is so great that you just made that easier.
Yep, so no more building from source, just install those two things and you're off to the races.
Huh, yeah. Boy, it's getting good there because this new GIMP release I just mentioned earlier, one of the things they're including now is GPU acceleration too. So having a good working GPU setup on an Ubuntu desktop, I think, is going to become more and more important. And I don't need to tell you guys that because I'm sure machine learning and all kinds of workloads like that are a big part of why that's been done, right?
Yeah. There's these contributions come from being based on top of Ubuntu, but Canonical have done a heap of work with NVIDIA to unlock compute performance for deep learning and AI and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, right. You said it came from Debian, right? So let's talk about the new multi-cloud reality that Canonical finds themselves in. And this seems to be a point that Mark wants to hit in his interviews about Ubuntu 18.04. He says that they've done boot time and performance optimized images of Ubuntu 18.04 on every major public cloud. And they made sure to be the fastest and most efficient OS for cloud computing. I would hope he thinks that way. He says having an OS tuned for far advanced workloads such as AI and machine learning is critical to a high-velocity team. And that's from the product manager at Cloud at Google, who says that they're looking forward to deploying 18.04 on the Google Cloud infrastructure. And Microsoft came in with their quote saying, this was Craig, their program manager, says, we're going to have Hyper-V optimized images that we've developed in collaboration with Canonical. These will be enhanced experiences of Ubuntu in Windows. In our upcoming release this spring, Hyper-V's Quick Create VM Gallery will now include an image for the latest Ubuntu 18.04 LTS release, officially stamped straight from Canonical. And I read this because it kind of underscores a theme I'm noticing in this 18.04 release is Canonical is working with AWS and other large partners like Microsoft with Azure and Microsoft Hyper-V, and I presume many others, to say, well, what do you need us to custom build into these images for you? And it's something that they seem to be taking to a much larger scale with this release.
I think that matters a lot, right? Not every shop and everyone doing this has time or even makes sense for them to do that sort of tuning. So if you can get that out of the box, it makes Ubuntu a natural choice.
Yeah, it's definitely an incentive. But go ahead.
So in Ubuntu Podcast Season 11, Episode 8, we interviewed David Britton, who's the lead for the Ubuntu server team. And he talked about the customizations and performance optimizations that Canonical do for the major cloud providers. So for each of their clouds, they get tailored images that are Ubuntu, but specific to their environment and their boot processes and their hardware.
Which episode again?
It was the last, as we're recording this, the current episode. So it's Season 11, Episode 8.
Oh, very good. I look forward to listening to that. Now, that seems like all of that is all good and fine, but we haven't talked about Pop! OS, which isn't a flavor, not an official flavor, but it is one of the more well-known Ubuntu derivatives at this point. And Ian sat down with us at the Linux Fest Northwest booth, and he told me about a feature they're adding in there that I think is pretty clever, and I wonder if we're going to see it in other places pretty soon.
The new installer sets up a recovery partition.
Oh, okay.
So that's something new that I haven't seen in Linux. I might have missed it.
I was just thinking about that today, actually.
Yeah, so it's basically there's an extra partition on the drive. It's about 4 gigabytes, enough to hold 2 ISOs conveniently, and it basically just holds the latest ISO so that you have media to reinstall your OS, even if you don't have like a flash drive or a CD drive available.
Wow,
love that.
Yeah. So can you do a fresh install, configured install, or does it give you a when you install a machine, does Pop! OS itself come pre-configured with all of the System 76 repositories, assuming that you're using System 76 hardware, or is it come just as like a stock distro and then you further customize
you have to
Pop!
add
OS
like a PPA later and stuff like that?
Right, for the hardware that's specific to System
How does that
76.
work?
So the new installer should be automatically installing the System 76 package for all of the hardware support stuff. That's in the main Pop! OS repository now.
I see. Okay.
In addition to being in the System 76 repository for other OSs.
Okay.
So it should be installing that. That may not be set up yet, though. I'd have to double check on that. But I can message Jeremy on Slack at some point and figure that out.
Yeah, because we are talking like down the road here.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty well set up, and it's a whole entire distro, and it will be doing the hardware integration for System 76, but it will work great on everything. It doesn't require a System 76
yeah, I mean,
computer.
I got it. It's not lost on me that when you say the installer, I mean that is something that most System 76 customers won't even see.
Actually, no, because another thing the installer does is full disk encryption.
Oh.
And so now
there's like a user interaction process.
Right. So the first run for a new System 76 computer, it's actually going to run the installer, and it's going to do a couple steps in the installer, and it's going to ask you if you want to encrypt. If you choose you don't want to encrypt, it'll just say cool, we're done, and it'll
Now, it'll say you're done, and then it goes to the user creation. I got cut there because there's a lot of noise in the background, and somebody jumped on the mic. Because there were people having a really good time at Linux Fest.
They sure were.
But, Popey, you were noting in the chat room that there's other ways this can happen, maybe other companies that do this.
Yeah, Dell have been doing this for a few years. They ship their systems with a little Dell utility that when you first install it, it says, do you want to create recovery media? Basically, stick a USB key in and it'll make that. But if you don't, that's okay, because they've done the same kind of thing where they've got a recovery area, a partition, and you can just reboot and make it nuke the system back to clean. And when I reviewed the Dell laptop that they sent us, I just did that and reverted it back to factory defaults and then put it back in the box and sent it back to them.
Right. That is really nice. I think I've always traditionally just nuke and pave the entire drive when I get a new machine. And and I've always kind of regretted it in the end, because it's a nice convenience. So I like that they're essentially bringing that to everybody with Pop! OS.
Yeah, more people should do this. And I wish we could do that more easily in Ubuntu, so that the default Ubuntu install was, had a recovery partition and could do all of this magic voodoo. But we'd get a bit of pushback, I think, from some people. It's a lot of work to do, and it's easier for System 76 to bake this in and for Dell to bake this in at the factory when they're putting the images on the hard drives. It's a little less easier for us to do it as a USB stick, but it could be done, but it's a lot of engineering work.
Yeah, right. And in that case that it's going on a laptop, whereas Ubuntu goes lots of places.
So I've been pretty impressed. My initial impressions, this is all they are at this point with 1804, is that it's shipping just such a great version of GNOME, and it iterated on top of 1710 in a lot of great ways. The choice to go with X11, I think, was a safe one, and I can see where maybe a few things are going. I can see perhaps a new theme that, I think it's called, people have talked about it might be coming on the horizon, but I could also see interesting directions that new Ubuntu welcome screen goes. Perhaps more in the direction of Ubuntu Mate's welcome. That could be really interesting. I would love to see that develop more in 1810. And I would like to see just more of what they're doing. So far, my initial impressions have been pretty solid. We'll see what the stability story is. We'll see what third-party application integration and support is. But right now, I can see where things are going, and I'm liking it. It seems like 1710 they pulled it off, and the 1804, they would have had to really blown it to mess up 1804, and they didn't. They didn't blow it. They iterated on top of it. So both Fedora 28 and Ubuntu 1804 might be, so far, my initial impression, some of their best releases I've ever seen out of either group.
It's like super exciting time to be a Linux user. I mean, there's so much going on, and 1604 felt like it really shook up the landscape. It was kind of a monumental release, and 1804, it's like now we're on that first just strictly better polish LTS. I'm so excited.
Yeah, and I'm really, I guess I can't even remember how long it's been since I've been tracking an Ubuntu release and a Fedora release around the same time, where they're shipping at the same time, and they're both shipping like the latest and greatest GNOME. And so we're back to, well, who kind of has the cooler GNOME implementation?
Yeah.
Like, it's been a long time since we've been there, and it feels kind of nostalgic. I love it. I'm really excited about the whole release cycle. So I think just a couple of solid releases. I got Fedora 28 on the machine. I got Ubuntu 1804 proper on a machine. And then I have a mess of systems on Kubuntu 1804. And I would be negligent if I didn't just say, hot damn. We put it in the belly of the beast. A trial by the greatest fire. There is one thing we can do at Jupiter Broadcasting to break a machine every single year. Every year we've broken a machine. We sometimes had to run out and grab parts in the middle of the fest and rebuild our system right there on the table out at our booth. We've had to reload operating systems, reinstall OBS, set up NVIDIA drivers, re-import all of our scenes. This year, we decided if Kubuntu 1804 could survive Linux Fest Northwest without crashing, it would become our de facto production operating system at Jupiter Broadcasting, because there was literally no better way to break a system. And we built one really great OBS system. We Frankensteined a couple of systems together, but they're all really solid parts. 6 cores, really fast, 32 gigs of RAM, NVMe drives, multiple NVMe drives, brand new fresh power supply, cleaned it all out, everything. It's just a gorgeous system. And we installed Kubuntu 1804 minimal install on it. Minimal install is so perfect for the studio. It's so perfect. Nothing's missing. Nothing's missing. Nothing extra. They nailed it. It's so great. And so we loaded that on this new OBS Frankenstein machine. And Noah and I sat around for hours because last year didn't go so well. We had a lot of crashes. Every episode of Linux Unplugged would suffer a crash.
Yeah.
And both Noah and I just felt super bad about that. And he's like, Polar Bear, I don't want to leave and have that thing crash on you the next day. And I said, Brown Bear, I don't want to have to go buy a Mac. So we got to make sure this works. That's like, we're sitting around, we're getting real talk here. Like, if this fails on us, what am I going to do? Because I'm at a point where I've tried Unity, I've tried Arch, I've tried GNOME, I've tried Ubuntu. We tried Ubuntu during this whole transition. Like, I've tried it all.
Fuchsia. That's probably it. Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do? So we have to know this works. We have to be 100% solid on this. We'll build it. We'll set it up. We'll do some testing. We'll run through every single show. And we had Alan by this time. Alan had joined us. So it's me, Noah, and Alan all working this problem. And then we got the new Kubuntu rig set up. We went through every single show. We did a mock version of every show on the network. The 3 of us. It was a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
And we were able to be ridiculous because we weren't streaming any of it. So, we didn't.
I hope you recorded this.
Yeah, nope. I mean, I did, but I don't know if I kept the files. We did an Unfilter. We did a Linux Unplugged. We did a BSD Now. We did all of them and made sure everything worked. We certified it as good and said, okay, now we're going to take it up to Linux Fest. If it survives that weekend, we'll put it back in the studio and we'll lock everything down to Kubuntu 1804. And it performed so well that Chase Nunes, who was running the board, ended up loading up a pinball application on his laptop and playing pinball while the machine just ran and did its thing. Just ran and did its thing. And
that says so much.
He played pinball, and afterwards he went up to Angela and said, this was the smoothest, easiest year we've ever had. It's never ran better. Did not crash once on us.
Beautiful.
Did not have a single issue. Now we've recorded 3 shows through it since we've been back from Linux Fest, running Kubuntu. We have it installed on 5 systems in the immediate room that we're sitting in right now. It's on another system outside, and it's just been rock solid. So I really can't say enough good things about Kubuntu 1804. And I've really started to just take to Plasma. I tweak my defaults. Takes me about a day of just sort of putzing here and there. Is like the first time I open up Dolphin, I change a few settings. The first time I log in, I open up settings and I change like a few things. But, after the first day or 2 of just doing that on and off, I'm pretty much done and it's set.
You've got it dialed in now.
Yeah, and I'm loving it. The performance overhead is less than it was on some of the other desktop environments. And I was surprised every time I saw that. We have an active monitor right here as I'm watching. I'm still watching the system. CPU and memory usage is lower by quite a bit than it was on some GTK desktops.
You were mentioning earlier, it feels like a professional workstation.
Yeah, it feels like I was teetering on what am I going to do? I need a professional grade workstation environment that I can put on powerful hardware that feels like it's designed for people to get work done as professional, and that's how Plasma feels for me. It just feels professional grade. You know, it's just really well done. Kubuntu is a really great release. I wasn't the biggest fan of their last the one that was based on Plasma 5.5. This one they nailed it. So my most experience, because I've been installing it on systems for 2 weeks now, is with Kubuntu 18.04. God knows I've tried it in every which way, different configuration, and even ran it on. I even got to see how it performs with failing hardware, which was pretty entertaining. We had a disk that was going bad in a system, and KWin disappeared.
Goodbye.
Just completely disappeared from
Wow.
the system. And then after we got that fixed, VLC disappeared, just completely gone. I closed the window and it was gone. The entire
Never
application.
to be seen again.
So it was funny to see how Plasma handled it. And we telegram producer Michael and we're like, Rotten, is there any way that KWin could disappear while we're using the system? No, that's impossible. He writes back. We're like,
It just happened.
That's when we knew we had some trouble. But it even did fine there. Like, you almost wouldn't have even known except for KWin disappeared and then VLC disappeared. But it actually did pretty well for quite a while. I've been really, really thrilled with it. I think it's maybe my favorite Linux release maybe ever. Maybe. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. Maybe it'll blow up in my face, and I'll change my tune. But right now,
it's early days, right? But that's the most exciting part, is you have so much more to go. It'll be with you for a long time.
It is one of those releases where I'm like excited again to spread the word. Like I got it installed on Hadia's computer. Like I'm excited to play with it. You know, but I'm not like getting distracted by tweaking it too much. It's so good. It's so good. And there's little things it does, like remembering the right spots for my windows to open up. So when we're in the studio, we have to launch things really quickly. They all go in the right place, and little things like that make it efficient to use that I just really super appreciate. And still got Neon on a couple of systems, still pretty great. I'm really enjoying KDE Neon on my workstation upstairs, and I have it on a laptop. But everything else is Kubuntu 18.04, so it just matches my production system.
And then on both, you're still in Ubuntu, right? It's mostly the same, just a little difference on the skin.
Yeah. I was tempted by Arch a little bit over Linux Fest just because I love that AUR. You know, Brent's an Arch user, so I know he understands. But just that idea of the whole stack, whole stack being LTS, and my machines just become appliance-like as close as possible. And then you got Live Patch in there too, so I can even reduce having to reboot there.
It seems like it's just the right time for you to have this be stable.
And yeah, because it's really come to a point where we were considering, do we hire an IT person? Because we got a lot of systems. Rikai used to help pick some of that up, but we've decided if we can just get these systems manageable to a point where I can manage them, and folks can help me out here and there when they're at the studio, that's perfect. And that's where we kind of moved away from Arch. When we'd look at something getting 300 packages behind on updates before we could get to it. And that's where you start rolling the dice with Arch in a pretty big way. Arch will run great as long as you stay on top of it. But when you spread that across 6 systems, and those 6 systems are there to serve the purpose of doing work, not to do anything else, it's hard to stay on top of that. So we'll see. Very happy with it. Very, very happy with Kubuntu 18.04. I really recommend people give it a try. But go get more of our friends over at the Ubuntu podcast. Sounds like they have a doozy that just came out. I'm looking forward to hearing that. And our friends over at Late Night Linux just did their review of 18.04 as well. And I thought that was pretty great. So you can go catch out more of that. And also, you may have heard recently that Ubuntu 18.04 got loaded on the Nintendo Switch, which is pretty cool. The touchscreen works. It's all. Well, Wes and I did a technical breakdown of how that's done at a hardware level, the exploit, some of the ways that people are going to make it easier, and the software and in the Tegra that was actually vulnerable. All that's covered in our TechSnap program, techsnap.systems. That's
365.
Thank you, sir. Episode 365, which, how can you forget that? Now, if you're watching live, which is, come on, right?
You should join us.
Right?
It's too
Everybody's
much fun.
doing that, right? It's so obvious. Well, then you stick around because the Ask Noah program's coming up, and you got your Linux sandwich. You start out with the Unplugged program. We got our live show. That's where things really start. Then you got the main show. We got our post show. And then that Noah Chalaya guy comes in.
Messes everything up.
Takes a whole nother round. Woo. Yeah, I was on his program just a couple of episodes ago, and we talked about encryption and how some of the different laws that could affect encryption could affect open source. I thought it was a pretty good chat, so look for that. But we'll be back here pretty soon. Thank you so much, Linux Unplugged /247 for links. See you next Tuesday! So many good distro choices this week. It's a good week to be a Linux user.
Yeah, it really is. I'm excited.
It's almost like it's the year of the Linux desktop, isn't it?
It's feeling like it. It is in a lot of ways. It not as we foresaw it, but
you mean because it's Chromebooks?
You look at Chromebooks adding Linux application support. You look at Microsoft adding the Linux subsystem to Windows. You look at these really solid releases from Ubuntu and Fedora, and we've never been in better shape. It is looking really good.
The doubters are still going to doubt.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
Fuck
true.
those guys.
Yeah, but what do they know, right? All right, we got to name this thing before we get out of here.
Bank suggests jbtitles.com. Does anyone ever look at the other things on here, like bubbles clusters?
No. No.
For the longest time, I didn't even realize it was
Nope, never do. Ubuntu Flavors Month.
Oh, I do like the hacker one, though. That one.
Oh, yeah, that is cool, isn't it? Best Linux releases ever, which is mine. Fedora Ubuntu releases, oh my. Come on.
Everybody go vote. Otherwise,
Year
we
of
have
the
to pick
Linux
it.
desktop.
Yeah, that's...
It's meme-tastic.
You got to suggest.
Oh, okay. All right, then I will.
I mean, I guess if enough people voted, I might do it. It's definitely never been a title we've used.
Hey, Wimpy, real quick question.
Yeah?
Is there no point to running the minimal install if you're going to install the desktop extras?
What's the desktop extras?
Mate desktop extras?
Well, you can install the minimal and do what you like with it, can't you?
Yeah, but then would it reinstall every single thing that you tried to avoid when installing the extras?
No, there's Hang on, that was weird.
Yeah. The aliens are coming. Year of the Linux? Just Year of the Linux, not desktop? Or did you just
yeah, that was meant. Yeah, I'll try that again. Shall I? Hang on a minute.
Well, we know what you mean, too.
Although I did a nod to the European spelling.
Linux for all, Year of Linux desktop, Year of the Linux desktop. Maybe.
I got some options now.
I feel like it is the year. I feel like it's such a solid year so far.
Yeah, but wait till later for that to say that for sure.
Yeah.
Save that for later.
Yeah, save that
No,
for...
it's no fun if you're saying it when everyone else already knows it's true.
Well, not everybody else, but at least we need a bit more confirmation on it. I'm not willing to count my chickens before they hatch.
Professional grade Linux.
I think what he's saying is there's one more amazing operating system release that's yet to come out.
That's true.
So this is why it's Year of the Linux desktop down, because there is another Linux release to come out, and I can't wait for Mint 19.
Oh, the most. What will be the headline? The most polished Linux yet. Let's see. What are always like the best Linux release yet? There's always those cheesy. We should
7 best Linux distros of 2018.
Year of the Linux desktop's winning me over now. The more we think about it.
Linux Mint, no Amazon here.
Isn't Mint still under scrutiny for all its server troubles? Still,
maybe by some. I think that's up to the eye of the beholder.
That happened once, some time ago. So if people are still going on about that, that's a bit sad.
I mean, I avoid Mint like the plague because of it.
I don't know. The Ubuntu forums got hacked once. One of our domains got hijacked once. You could avoid all of Ubuntu for that.
That's like mainline Ubuntu, correct?
They're all mainline. So.
Darn it, I'm on the bottom of the list.
Let's see. I still am liking Year of the Linux desktop. It just hasn't gotten very many votes.
Yeah,
Choose Your Ubuntu has gotten more, but it was more. We had Elementary OS in there. We had Fedora in there. We had Ubuntu in there. We had Pop OS in there. Sure. I'm liking Year of the Linux desktop more, but we got to get some votes in there, people. jbtitles.com.
Check the bottom of the list. I got some golden titles right there.
Oh, it looks like Pop OS. Just as we wrap up here, Pop OS 1804 officially released.
Hey, look at that.
Just missed the news of love. Just missed it by a...
Like they didn't even check your calendar.
Hey.
What's going to be the recommended retail price for the next version of Elementary? Are you going to, what would you say would be a reasonable amount for someone to pay when they download the ISO?
The default is currently at $10.
Are you going to keep that or change that, or what are you going to do?
I don't think we're gonna change it. We always talk about, we should, run some kind of A/B test or some crap or whatever. But
Right. If
no
name
one ever
equals Alan, then make the number $50 or something.
yeah,
there you go. That's a good idea. Actually, that'd be a good feature.
I mean, really, what it is it's like what you can afford is the appropriate price to pay. So if you're, destitute, like don't pay.
Yeah.
But if you're Bill Gates, like pay a lot.
Maybe pay a lot. Yeah, that'd be nice, actually. I looking forward to that. Well, Brent, thank you for being on the show, man.
Yeah, this is awesome.
A lot of fun. Now, you got a long. How many hours you guesstimate for that drive back?
Well, I have luckily planned ahead, so I've cut it up.
Oh yeah, good.
So I'm meeting a friend almost halfway. So taking a ferry.
Oh
going to
yeah,
Victoria
that's a great
for a little
idea.
bit.
Good for you. That's a great ferry ride.
I've never taken it.
Yeah. Are you doing a walk on or are you going to drive on?
I'm going to walk on.
That's the way to go.
The price is just.
That's the way to go. Good for you.
And then hitting up my brother in BC as well.
And then are you flying from BC to Ontario?
Yeah.
Good. That's not too bad. Good for you. That's a good way to do it. Well, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me this week. It's
trekking
been awesome.
to our side of the world.
Yeah, it was fun.
And
thanks for being here.
Is that to me?
To the dude on your end.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Wes, thanks for dinner last night. That was super fun.
That was great fun. Yes.
Wes Payne, you damn gentleman.
Yeah, he's generous like that, isn't he?
Well, I paid.
Yeah, he paid. We just got to join up together. But next time, it's on me.
Well, where'd you guys go? Anywhere I'd recognize?
Oh,
Probably
to a
not.
fantastic little beer bar called No Anchor.
By the way, Wimpy, awesome interview you did on Destination Linux. I listened to it over the weekend, and it was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I
Thank you
started
very
that.
much.
I did not finish it, but I started it.
Yeah, it's an epic. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Ooh.
And a lot of insults. A lot of insults.
Yeah, I got my rag out and waved it around a few times. Yeah,
Attaboy.
they gave me the latitude to express myself, so I did.
He gave me a new job title as well, which I thought was rather nice of him.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
T-boy.
I'm now the T-boy.
Oh, and there could be
The
worse
official
jobs.
Ubuntu Mate T-boy. I am updating the website now.
Excellent.
That's
Please
it.
do, yeah.
There could
You
be.
gotta have one.
There are worse jobs in the world. I'm just saying. I could get in on being a T-boy. I would not mind that.
Technically, isn't it chai something?
Chai boy? I
No,
don't know.
it's T.
Well, guys, thank
Maybe
you for
What did
making
I
it.
just walk back in on?
Now, did you guys just record earlier today?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Well, thank
Yes,
you
we
for
did.
thank you for making it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Our pleasure.
I just talked to Will a bit ago, and might get Did Rocks on the show maybe for next week. So you got anything else you ask him?
Excellent. Well, he did most of the work on the telemetry stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I really like that
Oh.
you can just hit view report right there on that screen.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And you can also view it after the event. So even if you chose not to, you could still type Ubuntu-report. He'll tell you all about this, but you could just type Ubuntu-report and it will tell you where that file is on your file system. You can go and have a look at it again. And if you want to, if you change your mind later on, you can choose to send it later. It's fine.
Aha. That's cool.
That's really nice, actually.
By the way, I have a correction. It's a chaiwala.
Oh my God, boy, you're so funny. All right, guys, I should clear out of here because the Ask Noah programs, I assume, coming up, and I gotta clear this. I gotta clear the tubes for a bit as we do. But goodbye, and thank you for being here. And you're welcome to stick around. I'm sure Noah will be along soon. I hope, because you know him. He can't miss a show.
He can't miss a
he's
show.
on that there radio.
Oh, yes.
They don't like it when you miss a show.
Certainly not.
Yeah, we were. Wes, you were here during the last Ask Noah. We were literally down to, I think, 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
We were still putting the studio together 20 seconds before the Ask Noah show started last week, because it was in the middle of the revamp phase, and there was a moment where Wes and I just walk out of the studio and we're like, it's either going to happen or it's not. And I look down at my watch and I'm like, 45 seconds, 30 seconds. 20 seconds. And I hear the click go in. I hear the last connection. I'm like, he's got it. And then he starts the show, and then I walk in, sit down. Because I'm like, I'm not going in there. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to be in there.
Ooh, no,
If
you
he
don't want to be
misses-
around.
If he's 6 seconds late, he's screwed. And man, was that down to the wire. So anyways, I should probably clear out of here so he's not so
Right,
down to the wire.
before you
this time.
go, Chris,
Mhm.
I've got a little top tip for you, okay?
Oh, okay,
if you
yeah.
go to snapcraft.io
Okay.
/core,
Snapcraft.
I was going to mention this earlier, but I decided not to, and you did.
Oh, what? Why wouldn't you? This looks cool. SnapD runtime environment. Oh boy. Oh boy. Here we go. Here we go.
Every snap has to install the core, right?
Yeah. So this is a good distribution right here. That is interesting. So Neon's way up there, surprisingly. Mint's way up there too. Elementary's doing good too. Fedora's pretty far up there too. Huh. Wow, this is fascinating.
You know what's interesting is I'm looking at the users by distribution for VLC, and Elementary 5, which is not released whatsoever, is beating out Fedora 28.
Oh, man. Elementary 5 is also beating out Debian 8 and Debian 5 and OpenSUSE Tumbleweed.
Everything beats OpenSUSE.
Yeah, on the core
That
package.
one was probably me from back like beginning of this year.
It probably
Jeez.
was you. Eric.
You're not even
It probably
shitting.
was.
You're not even shitting. Look at this. Pure OS is even. Well, I guess there's a little more OpenSUSE Tumbleweed than Pure OS because it's counted in here twice. But damn, that is really fascinating to see that. Yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on that. All right, thank you for sharing, guys, and thank you for being here, and hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm going to clear out the tubes now and let Ask Noah take over. Oh, there he is. I see him up there and quiet listening, so he must be
He's
getting
so
ready.
quiet.
I don't know if you can hear me there,
Oh,
Brown.
there we go. There we
hey.
go. No, I clicked on the wrong button. Can you believe that?
Well,
Yes, I can.
never.
These buttons are so confusing, Chris. I tell you what.
Well, I was just about to clear out the tubes for you, but
Yeah, you should probably do that. Hey, so get this. I get back to the studio, and as I'm sure you're painfully aware by now, we had some audio issues the last 2 weeks. So I come in and I go, what could be wrong? I do remotes all the time. What could be wrong here? Somebody turned my slider halfway down on the board.
No.
Like, I have this stuff set up in an entirely separate room away from everybody, and I'm the only one that even has a key to the place, so the only reason that people are to get in here is I forgot to lock the door. But, like, of all the things to touch, there are literally 2 sliders that had to function for me to do shows. The remote slider and the music slider. And so we pulled
you know
the
what? No,
remote
that's why I have motorized sliders on my mixer.
Yeah, I wish mine was that fancy. But
Man, so we just this is another batch of shows, another day of shows, not a single problem on the
yeah,
Kubuntu box.
it's funny you mentioned that. I was looking at schedules and flights and all that today.
I'm feeling really good about it.
So how would you feel about we were talking about over the weekend of the 4th, if you don't decide to do the thing we were talking about, maybe we do like a
would you bring
something around
your
Washington
rig or just you, or what were your thoughts?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, and we set aside a couple of days to upgrade and
well, that would be
whatever
good
the
because I
studio.
got a lean on my rig and I'm not sure I want to drive it very far with a lean like that.
Yeah, we sell some equipment, install some Linux.
Oh man, that could be a blast. That's maybe a really good idea. Yeah. Well, we'll
doesn't
see.
seem like a bad idea. That's the point.
Yeah, we'll
BRB.
see. We'll see if it survives.
I want to
Yeah,
join,
we'll do
but
a barbecue.
I don't know if I have the time.
Well, if that happened, I think we'd have to do a studio barbecue too, because
Oh, man.
there's some other I believe some other folks have been discussing perhaps potential summer barbecues. So West Payne may have been privy to some of those discussions at Linux Fest with one Mr. Dustin.
That is true.
So yeah, maybe we time all that together. It could be a lot of fun. We'll
That
talk
could be
about it
great.
more when we're not podcasting. Okay. Seems like
Yeah,
a good
you
idea.
have a show to do. I mean,
I'm gonna clear out the stream. So if you're watching live, the streams are gonna stop for a bit, but they'll be back with the Ask Nowhere program here in just a couple of minutes. So don't go anywhere, because he's getting ready over there. We got a fair amount of people watching right now. So people have discovered our other back channel YouTube stream. Yeah, there's only 3 people watching on it right now, but 3 people have discovered the second stream, which sometimes for some reason doesn't get the same copyright strikes that the mainstream gets.
I just want to point out that if the goal was to keep that secret, you
well, I didn't know because you got it like it's not public, so you can't, and there's no like it doesn't have a name or nothing like that, so I don't know how people find it.
You post